Hello, everybody. Welcome back for another week of Growing with My Fellow Growers. I'm your host, Jack Greenstock, joined as always by an amazing panel. I'm going to pass it over first this week to Dr. MJ Coco. Welcome back.
Hey guys, yeah, Dr. MJ Coco from cocoforcannabis.com, and I do commercial consulting work at drmjcoco.com, so you can find me there. Excited to jump into the show. Always excited to be on with Jack and anybody else that decides to join us tonight.
Happy to have you back. And next up, I want to welcome, if they're all loaded in here, Spartan Grown.
Thank you, Jack. Yes, I'm Spartan Grown. You can find me on Instagram at Spartan Grown, all one word with no spaces. Otherwise, you can shoot me an email at spartangrown@gmail.com and I can help you with your growing or lighting questions.
Happy to have you back. And I got a question this week, and I mentioned in the show maybe last week or the week before, for the people that aren't able to make it live to the show, if they write me a question in an email or a DM or something like that, that I'll write it down and put it into a little message box. And so they said they had a great idea for an episode. I think it was from JP from NB, if I remember correctly. But they said, you just said how meticulous you were about breeders and you picked them and you mentioned AK Bean Brains is on your top 40 or 50 potential legit breeders list. It would be cool to make a list of flavor profiles such as fruit, gas, candy, exotic, old school, etc., and then have the panelists weigh in on each which breeder they would pick to meet that flavor profile. Seed ban is potentially coming, and I know I'm going to buy in here soon. Would love to have your guys' insight. I'm in Canada. I might not be able to get genetics down from you guys anymore. I know a lot of other people would definitely love to hear that as well. So, with that in mind, I think it'd be fun just to talk about our favorite breeders and seed makers generally, as well as people that provide clones. I've been running the Open Source Genetics Alliance and getting clones out there to the people, and I did that because I got them from Tiki Cuts or Tiki Madman, who I would just give an honorable mention right off the start and say he's a legit one. And I know Noah the Grower's not here, and one that he'd always shout out is Archive Genetics because a lot of his stuff comes from there. I think the duct tape as well as many of the other genetics that Noah is growing. So I was going to actually pass it to him first, thinking he would pick that because that's the one that he goes to very often and trusts and has found some really killer stuff at. But I'm curious generally if you guys have any like go-to breeders that are just like favorites off the top of your head. And then from there, we can get into the different flavor profiles and maybe think a little bit more about who individually might best be able to provide certain types of flavors. So I guess I'll pass it first to Dr. MJ and ask, do you have any favorites in terms of breeders, seed makers, genetics providers, etc. Um, and yeah, from there we can just kind of start from that.
I'm on mute, so I'm back. Um, Yeah, I think it's interesting to what I was saying is to pick up the other kind of thing in that question as well, which is the changes to the seed market, which are likely coming. We've been living in sort of a loophole for the last, almost decade at this point, and have gotten pretty used to being able to buy seeds on from all sorts of different breeders on like Instagram and other platforms like that. You go back prior to 2018 and really even like prior to 2020 or 2021 when people really started doing that more freely. It was a lot harder to get seeds and to understand what breeders you were working with or dealing with. So I'm interested to see how that evolves and how that develops over the next 4 or 5 months. Texas just went to a more restrictive standard today, I think, on or yesterday on August 1st. Um, States are sort of rolling back and gonna change the way that we've been getting seeds. To get to your real question, I've been looking for a breeder that I could really sort of endorse for the reasons that I want to endorse a breeder, which is sort of the way they're genetically working lines. I've got a lot of different strains that breeders have worked with that I have a great deal of respect for that I like, but I like them because of the strains that they've cultivated more than because of sort of the breeding techniques necessarily that they've been working with. So it's an odd question for me. I haven't really sort of found that that outfit that's doing things either that's doing it right and then both making the genetics available to people in a way that I find not problematic. I don't like these licensing deals that um a lot of breeders are going to on the commercial side of things, not really making their stuff available to recreational growers or as sort of seed purchases, but doing licensing deals, um, which brings up interesting questions about the ownership of genetics. But that's sort of also not answering your question, Jack. I don't know. I'll think about. I'll keep thinking about breeders in particular that I've worked with that I think would be good for home grower sort of markets, aside from people that we all kind of know.
And I think it's
I'll
fair. There's no rules. We can definitely recommend like other panelists or just smaller home growers or
yeah.
people that we think that are doing good work. But at the same
There's a
time,
number of people that have come out of my community that are now sort of doing breeding and selling seeds, and some of them are doing it, pretty well. I think OC Grower that was a grower in my community back in the when it first started is started doing seeds and does a good job with them. Um,
Seed Person, formerly Seed Person One, I feel like another good example.
yeah.
I wanted to take a second to welcome in while you think about that, and I'm going to pass it to I'll introduce the topic to Brandon because he just got here. So I'll say welcome in, Brandon Rust.
Good to see you, Brandon.
Howdy, everybody. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yes.
Sweet. Yep, I'm Brandon Rust. You guys probably know me from YouTube and Instagram. I talk about cultivation science, energy, closed loop systems, sustainable agriculture, all that good stuff. Owner of Full Crop Science.
We're happy to have you back. And tonight for the show, we're talking kind of like favorite breeders for seeds or clones. And one of the questions was from a person up in Canada. They're talking about the seed ban and wanting to hear some of our favorite breeders for different flavor profiles, as well as just thoughts in general on like the upcoming uh, genetics kind of restrictions and stuff that are going to be taking place with the seed bans and things like that. So I guess first question for you, Brandon, would be, do you have any favorite breeders that you like to go to off the top of your head? And then we can get into flavor profiles and stuff after I ask Spartan his.
Well, myself, I mostly grow out my own stuff, but aside from myself, Capulator and Mean Gene are probably two of my favorites.
Good ones to have on the list for sure. And I would second them. Main Gene for sure as well, especially. But I think Cap has some good stuff, even though I'm not the biggest fan of the Mac one. I like a lot of his other stuff. And I think he's just a good grower and breeder generally. So good recommendation there. Spartan, I'm curious, you've been here quietly, patiently waiting, and you've got a lot of different experience with a lot of different breeders, and both at home in the commercial setting and the slightly commercial, slightly home grow setting with the Trichome Forge. So I'm curious if you have any thoughts generally, like what breeders come top of mind for you when it comes to favorites.
Um, Unfortunately, I haven't stayed up with the breeder game, so mine are going to be more old school. But of course, I'm going to say above all else, TGA. But that's just because I liked that as maybe because there's nostalgia there too. But that's the era I kind of was mainly kind of growing publicly. Was with when TGA was out, and I was trying to get his stuff, and Subcool just had a real good knack of picking stuff that was very terpy, had good flavors. So at the very least, you're gonna enjoy the flavor. Maybe you have to smoke more of it to get you high if you got one that was a dud. But I mean, there's a lot of them that I've smoked at his that were definitely not duds, and Vortex being one of them that, of course, I really liked and I've worked with myself. But I mean, there's a lot of breeders out there that I mean, 2020 Mendocino, they breed a lot of theirs outdoors. So if you're an outdoor grower, that's probably somebody you want to lean towards, somebody who's kind of tested their gear outdoor to be in the same kind of environment as you. Um, and then autoflowers, I'd probably look towards, Night Owl Seeds or our buddy Dan from Gnome Automatics. And it's just like these are all people that have been in the game for a while. And I'm not to say that every new person in the game doesn't know what they're doing, but if you've been in this game, especially for a while, and you're still surviving, and there's not about a lot of bad publicity about you, then you've been doing something ungodly good. So, my hat's off to you. But unfortunately, my opinion about it all is kind of breeders are like, just like popping another pack of seeds. I can't guarantee I'm going to get the same pheno, let alone, you know, the same. Like I could get a really great, my opinion is if I could get a really great seed and grow a great plant that I love and then buy 5 other of the strains from the same breeder and not be happy with them. That's definitely happened to me. So if you get one, I think Dr. Kojo was kind of alluding to that. If you get one strain that's really good, it's not always indicative of a great breeding or a great breeder behind it. Maybe the plant did a lot of that work and got to where it was. So I don't know. It's a hard question because I don't really think that there's a lot of really straightforward, tons of good breeders that like take the time and work the pundit squares and all that thing and even have a plan. Honestly, when I see this one thing hit by every single thing that I have, that's not really selecting.
Accuracy by
It's not
volume.
very selective.
It's like an accuracy by volume thing, and just like
Yeah.
creating the most colors in the rainbow because everybody out there wants some sort of cross, and there probably are some people that are mad that breeders like Capulator or whoever haven't done. Why haven't you crossed purple cookies into Animal Magic Monkey Brain or whatever it is? So like they want that crossed to whatever it is, and so that person who crosses them to everything, they're gonna meet those people that want just whatever. They don't necessarily care of the work done. They're just like, oh, I like Purple Punch and I like OG Kush, and that guy crossed them together. So I'm gonna pick it up from there because it's available and I like those two strains and I want to see how they work together. And so I think there's some element of that, but
But there's
one that
also
I'll
the element of a total amateur breeder could have an accident and make a great fucking strain.
like
That
Josie
totally
Wales,
can happen.
As
That
well. Yeah,
yeah, so that
exactly.
doesn't
JG4,
make you a great breeder. It just made you fucking in the right place at the right
part of a
time.
happy accident.
Whatever. That's
Yeah.
great.
Don was just a home grower. Like his setup was probably like I would probably say 90% of people who are home growing probably had a better setup than he had. I mean, I actually went to his house and like looked at what he was doing, and it was like basically like a little thing that he drywalled off in the corner of his garage, and then he had like a tent. You know what I mean? So it wasn't something fancy that I was doing that brought out a fucking legendary fucking variety.
That's the beauty. It doesn't have to be. Neither did like the
Right.
Chem Dog that came from a bag seed, right? I mean, it like doesn't have to be perfectly selected breeding. But then there's like Donnie Berger, where he took a strain, I believe it was Larry OG to F8 or F9 to have a male of it that he wanted to breed with. And then he crossed that to GMO, which he personally selected from Mamico seeds, garlic cookies, found the GMO pheno, and like now that's kind of famous or whatever, but it is garlic cookies from Mamico. He didn't breed that, but he hung on to it, bred that Larry OG F8 or F9 into the GMO, making the Han Solo burger. And then he crossed that back into the GMO, doing like a back cross, making the Donnie burger, which is one of my favorite strains of all time. And I think that level of work and like the work that Rick at Mr. Soul, I should say, Rick Santinella, I think his name is, at uh, what is the name? Grimm Brothers
Brother
Grimm, yeah,
Grimm.
Brothers
Yeah.
Grimm seeds. He made the Cinderella 99 with like 4 times back crossing to the mother, and a lot of
Not just
breeders
the four
are
times
not doing that work.
crossing, right, Jack? It's selecting at that point too, because each back cross, each cross, there's not enough genetic uniformity in these strains for them to be uniform in the offspring. So you make a cross, and some of them have the desirable traits of the parents, and some of them don't. So you need to kind of search through the progeny if you're breeding that way.
That's why
Kind of,
I
yeah.
explained last week when I was with my goal for my Velvet Punch initially was to have a stable purple male because I wanted to make a J1 back cross. And if I had a Velvet Punch that I bred for like 6, 7, 9 generations for all purple, early finishing, whatever, like good, other stuff that maybe I liked, gas or grape or whatever. But the main thing I wanted them to flower purple all the time, like in my garden and everybody's garden. And that was pretty successful in the first, second, and third generations. I eventually gave up on the project because I'm not that attached to J1 or whatever. But if I would have taken it all the way down to like the F6 or F9, had a stable breeding male that was purple, that kind of like in that where J1 was always green. So if I crossed those together, I would figure in the successive generation it'd be easier to pick for the more J1 heavy phenos by picking for the green ones over the purple ones with the Velvet Punch as a male, which is kind of like an opposite thing for selection. But it's a lot of work, a lot of time. And
It depends on how those genes are coded, whether they're co-dominant or sort of traditionally dominant. And what specific alleles you're working with. Like just having a stable male doesn't mean that it's homozygotic and will always give sort of the same copy to its offspring. Um,
And
you can get better
unfortunately,
at it, but there's still going to be some diversity, right?
and you're
right.
hitting on a important topic right there too, Dr. Coco, and that's I've always heard from breeders that I do respect that you just got to take your male and cross it to other females to see what it does, to see what that
Right,
male always
Test
does.
it out.
Like this one always
right.
brings this, or this one always does that. That's what you got to do to see what those dominant traits are.
Mean Gene
Right.
said he had OG Kush smelling males that he would breed to everything, and they wouldn't breed any OG Kush. But then he has a one that smells like dill pickles, and the dill pickle smelling male breeds OG Kush phenos like crazy. So there's some weird little oddities.
Exactly, because you kind of want in some of these situations, you want the trait that's heterozygotic. So it's like the big D with the little C or something. You want a male that's got two copies of that big D, but when you get two copies of that big D, it doesn't express itself in the same way. And I'm sorry I chose that letter, but
I
Now there's
thought
some
this was a
strains called
perfect
Big
one
D,
for the
right?
male.
I know like
everyone wants a
Brandon
male
and Tao and
with
others
big
have
D.
grown some Black D and other like Black Domina. And I don't know. There's some
But
fun
yeah,
names.
that's why it's different. Like just the way genetics works, when reproduction happens and those split, the offspring only get one copy from the father, and it's the dominant copy, then it will sort of dominate any of the recessive traits that it gets in the mom, and then you'll get that heterozygotic expression that you want. Um, there's ways to approach this differently in breeding, and I know I've made this point in the past on the show, but like cannabis comes at this in a different way than a lot of other crops are bred. Um, and it would be interesting to me to sort of go down a traditional inbreed um, route with making cannabis seeds, but that's that's just a different way to go about doing this. And in that way, the parents usually don't have the traits that you're looking for in the offspring. It's only when you cross this homozygotic mom with this homozygotic dad that you get these beautifully heterozygotic offspring that have the expressions that you really want. There's not a lot of cannabis breeding that's done like that, and I'm kind of holding out to award my favorite breeder to somebody that's going to give it a real effort.
I do that on my blueberry train max. So I have four filial generations. I have two different back crosses. I have four different F3s, and I'm currently hunting out F4s for F5s.
Well, what I'm talking about, Brandon, would be to get the parent lines, to get the Fs, to get the P lines, you would self them repeatedly to make them homozygotic. And it's usually like 6 or 7 generations of inbreeding is required to get the purely homozygotic parents. And then once you've got that sort of severely inbred strain, you cross it with another severely inbred individual, and their offspring have perfect heterosis. They have perfect heterogeneity because both parents were like all of the offspring will be identical and theoretically vigorous. They might not have all the traits that you want. So there's a lot of trial and error to it.
Yeah,
Um,
when I make F1s, typically what I see is uh I see more characteristics in the F1 generation, and then when I move into F2 and F3, it opens up that line, and so there's more selection work in the F2 and F3 generations, and then I'm dialing it in. But I'm not doing any selfing. I'm doing traditional breeding, and I have to. So
you're just starting with you're selecting your parents,
yeah,
right? I'm
yeah.
talking about just making your parents, doing this inbreeding to create the parents that then you use to do the crossing.
So out of those 10 different lines, I've hunted hundreds of plants.
Right.
and I only picked 4.
Right.
And they're all uniquely different because I picked different things from different lines. Like I picked 3 different plants from the F2s because the F2s had so much more diversity in the line, and I found stuff that wasn't even what I was looking for, but it was good enough to work into a different direction. And so like the main line that I have right now is based off of like the Crinkle Cut, which is a cannabis award winner. And then I have the child of that, which is my Blueberry Haze cut, which is very similar, but it's got a little bit more of the haze expression. But the next thing I do right now is I'm hunting out a bunch of F4. So I've got like 40 or 50 of them. And what I'll do is I'll find a really good male from that F5 and I'll hit it back to that F2, that one that is the mom that won the cup. And then I'll pop more of those seeds and then I'll cross it into the F6, the F5s, S6, so on. I've got a lot of different, I've done it like so many different ways. I have so many different line work from that specific Blueberry Train Mac line. Same with the Limarilla too, because I've been working with that Limarilla since 2015. And so I've got like S1s, S2s, I've got F1s, I've got inbred lines, I've got back crosses. I do a lot. And if like you look at like the majority of my work, it's mostly on these 2 specific varieties.
Sure.
Black Lime Reserve crosses.
I really liked your lime stuff. Even your limelight, which was kind of like an outcross, I guess.
It's a good one, dude. That Limelight is so it's really, really pretty too, and it's super terpy. So it's like
Yeah.
it's one of those things like when you get the Mac leaners, they're like really great for tent grows because they won't like overgrow. You know, they'll stay nice and sturdy and they stack real nice.
I will say, I want to shout out a panelist who's not able to make it. He messaged us in the DM, said he can't make it. Is the American one who, if you go to amyaces.com, you can actually get Amy Aces. I've grown that out, and it was very fire. It has one of the parents is a subcool strain, and can't remember Queso something. It's one of the crosses of UK cheese, but he crossed that into his RB proprietary, which is just like a killer cut that he found. Didn't have a name for it, so he called it RB resin bomb, and crossed that to the God, what is it? It's killing me now that I can't think of the one subcool strain that's like really cheesy. I feel like it's called like case
Cheesequake.
cheesequake. There we go. I was like cheese bomb, cheese something, but yeah, cheesequake across to the RB and the Amy Aces. He's also done some blueberry work as well that a lot of people really enjoyed. I think he passed those out mostly as testers. But another guy who's come on this show before, Breeder Steve of Spice of Life Seeds. He's back in the game. He's doing the Seeds of Anarchy as well, and a few other brand names and stuff like that. And just to give a few of my favorites, I've made a account called aromatic.akeens or AC HENES, like the American one with the Keens or whatever. But it follows basically breeders that I really enjoy in the cannabis space because as much as I do agree with Doc that it'd be really nice for us to have that level of breeding where it's stabilized to that point. Looking at the state of the current cannabis genetics, it's just not the case yet. And the ban is incoming. And so people are looking for genetics now and they want to know who we have grown and enjoyed smoking and that kind of stuff. So I've got a list of 35 people on this account. And I'll also add Brandon Rust to the list because I got some of his seeds and I've grown some of his stuff and liked some of his Limarilla crosses. So shout out to Brandon as well. Don't want to leave you high and dry. And I'm growing Spartan grown stuff right now, the Vortex F2s, but he'll kind of be humble and say that those are just an open pollinated F2 from Subcool's genetics, which I'm glad that you did. Seed preservation work of dead breeders, I think, is an honorable task within the community, and then sharing the seeds for free, which is, I think, also very notable and honorable to do within the community, which I encourage everybody to do as much as you can, if you can. So shout out to Spartan for that. But when it comes to like, I can go to a seed bank and buy seeds. One of the first ones, I met them at a event, the Humboldt Seed Company, HSC, Nat Pennington and his daughter Haley or Hallie Pennington. They are great people and they're breeding at pretty large scale with a lot of the legal California growers. They found some really killer phenotypes. And then kind of back crossed into them to make them more viable from seed form. I think Brandon's growing some of the blueberry muffins. I know he said it wasn't the most stable, but I think he found some cool stuff in there. Maybe not, but I've liked some of their stuff. They're
Good. Like it's good smoke and stuff. It's just it was. I just had some better stuff in my library at the time, so I didn't keep anything.
nothing wrong with that. I love their pineapple upside down cake and their asphalt OG are now called all gas OG. That one's really gassy and it kind of has that kind of tarry resinous, not the best tasting, but super stony. And the pineapple upside down cake literally tasted like straight pineapples. Although I know I think Spartan hunted that one and they couldn't find any super pineapple phenos. Maybe that has changed. I don't know.
You know what flavor I really like that I feel is super underrated and doesn't get enough credit is grapefruit. Grapefruit
I
is such
agree.
a fucking good flavor, dude. And
Breeder
it's
Steve, brother. Sweet
Great.
pink grapefruit. He's been doing that shit since like the 90s.
Got a
and
grapefruit Fresca right now. I love
the
grapefruit.
the grapefruit like terpene profile really translates really well over to the flavor of the actual smoke on a lot of those grapefruit varieties.
I'm with you. I'm with any fruit flavor that translates to the smoke. Strawberry cough. Kyle Cushman famously spread it around, and Strawberry Jerry or whatever in the crew over there who found it and made it happen and spread that around and kept it alive. That's a killer one. I think Grape Ape to Purple Punch to Granddaddy Purple, all of those can actually express very true kind of grape to grape candy profiles, which now we're getting more into the second part of that question, which was such as fruits, gas, earth, candy, exotic, and old school. I'll shout out one for old school. We'll go in reverse direction on this one. So we're going to start with old school and then work our way back through all those different flavors. I'm going to say one that I think is uh, a godfather of cannabis. I'd put him on the Mount Rushmore, if there was one, of breeders and just people on the scene in general, which is Shanti Baba, now of Mr. Nice, formerly of Greenhouse Seed Company. He's the guy who's behind the white, aka Black Widow, is what he sells it under now. But he's done a bunch of other stuff like Super Silver Haze, and he's just got a ton of really killer stuff. Ortega, a lot of his stuff was like kind of foundational, early 90s, 2000s, and it's still, I think, the backbone of a lot of what goes around today. That's pretty good. So, in terms of old school, I think it's hard to not
Northern Light.
love Mr. Nice, but some people, everybody has their own opinions on everything.
Yeah. I think Northern Lights is a huge staple. I think also one of those varieties that's in so much different.
Shout out to Greg
Yeah.
McAllister, the originator. He gave it to Neville Shoemaker, who is no longer with us. Shout out to Neville of the Seed Bank of Holland, which later became Sensi Seed Bank, Sensi Seeds. So RIP to those guys. But Shanti Baba does use some of the NL5 in his crosses still, which I think NL5 cross to Haze has created some of the best shit ever, like Piff and just like it's itself. If you've bought that strain, smoked that strain, know somebody who's growing that strain, you've probably been a big fan of it.
The Piff is like I think Cuban black haze and like some African haze varieties. Whenever I go to New York, it's the only place I actually see that profile. And their haze isn't like the Cali haze, which is usually
It's more
like
frankincense-y.
it's more frankincense, it's more like earthy incense, and it also gives you that really tight band around your head. And like
I grew up smoking that shit.
the after effect is interesting too because it makes you feel kind of like slow, like oh, where's my keys type. I think that's where the haze part comes from because it kind of makes you feel like a little lost in the mind.
It's psychedelic. It's trippy. You can lose track of time. That was one of the more potent. We'd call them pinner joints, where like a normal joint, like at least like the size of your finger. A pinner would be like a toothpick, or like maybe a little bit fatter than a toothpick. But you could roll a pinner of some fucking piff, and you would get
50% paper.
lit. It is 50% paper, and I don't give a fuck. You get so high. My buddy Chris, he had a rolling machine, and we only had a little bit left. And we smoked one before a basketball game one time. Fucking went on a little route, smoked a little pinner of some piff. And that was like the only game I ever scored 20 points. Like I was just on fucking fire. I was like dialed in or whatever. But man, the piff. I miss smoking that. I miss smelling it. That was another one that stunk through the bag. It
From
still
New
goes
York
around though.
Bank, yeah. I have a bunch of it. I've got like I've had probably like 10 different breeders from New York while I was out there give me like the piff crosses. So I've got a bunch. I just haven't got into it. It's just I don't know. I always just kind of do the same thing over and over, like until things are absolutely respected. You know,
Spartan, what's your favorite old school breeder? If you had to go for like an old school profile or old school breeder, who are you reaching for? Who do you think of?
I want to, if I want a breeder who I'm looking for old school gear, I want to reach out to Todd McCormick, and he might not have bred it all, but he's collected it and from the legit sources. He's got the seeds there. So yeah, what's his company? Is it
Authentic
Ag
Genetics, I think.
Authentic Genetics? Yeah. But I have some from him, but I haven't even popped them yet. But like some hazes and stuff that I'd be like, wow, it'd be cool to grow them someday.
yeah, I've
So
grown some of his on haze and some other stuff that he did. I've got a bunch of packs. He gave me a bunch of NL crosses because actually they came from Greg. I think Greg just had them send them to me.
That's cool.
Homie,
The,
Greg called me up like twice a month. Just
Another
checks.
great old school resource
that's awesome,
is
dude.
the
Yeah.
the son of Super Sativa Seed Club. His name is Keys, Kees, or Keys maybe. He's over in Europe, I believe, but he's still doing a lot of really cool and interesting haze work with a lot of that old SSSC. If you guys are familiar with the Super Sativa Seed Club, they had a lot of cool and interesting. I think they did the Band-Aid haze or a couple other different older hazes, but the son has taken it over and he's doing new crosses and interesting stuff with that in terms of old school. That is one that definitely pops into my mind. Sensi Seeds is still out there, and you can still get stuff
Oh
from
yeah,
Sensi
they are.
Seeds, like Jack Harrer and some of the other stuff. And many people, I think one of our friends of the show, man, he's got long hair and a great beard. Fucking, he worked for him for a while. I'm blanking on his name. He's fucking one of the coolest dudes.
Chad
Chad
Westport.
Westport. Yeah. I think
Oh,
he worked with them for a while. And so did I think before he started his own thing, the guy Adam Dunn from TH Seeds worked
yeah.
for Sensi Seeds for a while in Amsterdam back in like 90s and 2000s maybe, or 80s and 90s. I can't remember exact dates, but he had a lot of access to a lot of that stuff. And I do think for the time and even like early days, Greenhouse Seeds had put out a lot of the really cool and interesting stuff. I liked them up until the death of the one collector, Franco. I'm not the biggest fan of the Ariane character over there, but I think that that being
We think
said,
alike, Jack. We're on the same page, I think.
that said, they definitely have put out some really killer shit, good resources over the time. Like
Yes.
I learned a lot about growing in the early times from some of
I
their
love their
resources.
videos, to be honest, where they would take the plant through the whole stage of growth and have all the stats. Like they weighed it as it was going.
Yeah, they'd be like, "Oh, we're gonna dry it out this week," and then like they'd lift it up, like and show like how light it was because they let it dry out or whatever. And that was to me like sub cool. It was like really showing, all right, we're gonna stand behind our product and grow it and show you like this is how it looks in hydro, this is how it looks in soil, this is how it looks in our greenhouse or whatever. And it'd be like, we yielded this much per square meter, and like I think a lot of those were generous estimates, but the
Still, I love that video. I mean, as a grower, especially a newer grower, to be able to sit there and watch the whole grow in what, a half hour video or less,
yeah,
watch the whole fucking grow and see what, what they did. They'd say exactly what they're feeding and the whole thing. It was really cool. And I didn't know a whole lot of other people really doing that. And that
it was
was
great
cool.
marketing material. I mean, to be honest, they were cutting edge on that front, getting in front of the camera and filming stuff like that and being so detailed. Partially, I mean, because where they were at, they were able to get that accomplished. A lot of places still cannot do that. But even now, the places that can, you're not seeing a lot of breeders necessarily going to those lengths to document and describe how their cannabis grows. And I think it'd be a welcome addition if more people could get to that level, but it's not necessarily necessary. I think most people are honestly at the end of the day most interested in how does it look at the end? How does it smell, smoke, taste, and high, and all that different stuff. So speaking of, we could talk a little bit about some of the other different flavor profiles. This one's interesting to me because we started with old school. The next one that would be listed, I said I want to go in reverse order, would be exotic. What do you guys think about this? Exotic, za, the exotic cannabis. I think that's a bit of a, we've talked about this in the past on the show, but I think it's always fun to
Can
get
I give
updates
you
on people's general
my-
ideas. Yeah, sure, Brandon, go ahead.
Okay, I collect Magic the Gathering. I play Magic the Gathering have for a long time, right? So you have commons, you have uncommons, you have rares, and then you have mythic rares. And then sometimes you get like mythic rares that are borderless and in foil or
Foil.
numbered,
Hell yeah.
are even more rare than your mythics or your regular rares, right? I would put it kind of on a grading scale like that, because regardless of the quality, the accessibility is really what makes something exotic, because exotic is like, it means rare, right? In my eyes. Or
Certainly
different.
I
means
mean,
different
technically, it
and
means from a foreign
unusual.
land, right? Depending on what you're
Yeah.
talking about. Like an exotic animal means it came from another country. So, like a leopard or something in the U.S. or some sort of like African tiger, it's not supposed to be here. Um, that'd be exotic, an exotic cat. But in the case of exotic genetics or exotic fruit, it could be about the import. It could be about the rarity. An exotic vehicle is like sometimes determined by its value or number made and things like that. So
I
it really
think
it,
that's
About
it does get
exotic
semantic.
dancing, Jack.
yeah, we forgot about exotic dancing. Good point. I
You know,
think
that
I
was
think
where my
we can
mind was
all
initially
agree
at, but I
that
couldn't go there first.
I'm just saying this word does mean different things in different contexts.
but I think in all of the things, what it is marketing. It's
Yeah.
marketing. And
Yeah.
it could be bullshit or it could be something really good.
Maybe there is an actual limited supply, or maybe they're artificially making it seem limited. Like
Did you
even like Ferrari has been guilty of saying that they're only going to do like 500 of a certain car, and then they like make like 6 or 7 or 1,000, like 600, 700 or 1,000 because like more than 500 people ordered it, and then they just like print the plates with numbers 1 through 500, and none of those people are going to see each other on the other side of the world when you ship one to, China and one goes to California. So it's
No, I
you
would.
know
I mean,
artificial
Yeah,
scarcity there.
diversity. But I think we use this word to mean things that are just different and unusual and enticing in some way or another.
That's a good way of putting it, I think.
yeah.
Special, different,
But my first
maybe
question,
better
so
than like the
bartender.
average shit around. Your average shit around is like
Right.
the mids that you like in high school for me, we had the brown pack Mexican weed, we had
Yeah.
Beasters, and then like the grade up from Beasters. That was like brown pack you could get for like, I don't know, let's call it $10 an eighth or less. Then you had like the Beasters for like
We're
20
getting
to
stuff for
30
$10 an eighth in high
for
school.
for brown pack Mexican. My one buddy would sell
I
you a
was
quarter for
buying
a
brown
quarter.
pack Mexican, but it was more than $10 and it was
Yeah,
well, it was $20 an eighth, man. But that was like early 90s.
a dime
It was
bag was
7
10.
grams for 25, I think was the deal. A quarter for the brown pack, actually. But I was just trying to like make the math easier in my head.
Dime bag was like a teener.
And yeah, seeded bud. I'm a little on the younger side. So I think the accessibility to some of the better stuff, like the beasters that we had coming in, you could get for like 30 to $50, depending on who you knew in your connection and where you were. Because like obviously, if you're buying it from a guy who's flipping it, and then another guy's flipping it, and another guy's flipping it, like every single person that steps on it is making a little bit of a profit. And so
Not a
the
little
further
bit.
you
It's
are
usually
away from the
doubling
chain,
every time. That's the standard. Everybody's doubling it. Is usually
pretty
how.
much, yeah, to make their money back.
With exotic cannabis, I believe I agree with Disbanded Brotherhood here in our comments. Like strains like Freak Show and the Australian Bastard Cannabis, they're exotic. Those are different, weird, rare. They're not necessarily desirable. I think that there are also sort of desirable
Yeah.
exotics, but I don't
Those are
know.
exotic to us, but
That's a
like the
good
kids in the street aren't calling like the good smoke exotic, talking about freak show. They're talking about stuff that's like really purple or really smells good or probably is like a spray pack, but they don't realize
And
it
it's
got sprayed
probably
with
not
some
really
blueberry
exotic. It's
terpenes.
probably just good.
And that's a good point.
Right.
Like saying something could be exotic but not good, because it's like, okay,
It's
well,
like
yeah, the
dank.
Pakistani landrace that I grew is technically exotic, but the weed sucks.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like,
Right.
It might taste like goat shit and like not even get you high because it's like a CBD heavy
Well,
cultivar that
that's
grew
why,
at weird
like, if I
altitude.
was sold, like, I was at a dispo and they said, "Hey, we have some of this new exotic stuff." My first assumption and my question would be, is like, okay, are you importing? Where's this coming from? How exotic is it? Is this coming from Thailand? What is this?
I
yeah,
mean, Canada is exotic. They're exporting to Mexico. So is the Canadian
Yeah.
mids that's being pushed to Mexico or Mexico, not Mexico, Germany was importing tons of it. And so do many other countries. So is everybody importing it from Canada, getting exotic bud because it
No,
was
I don't think it's
imported?
really about where it's from at this point.
I
It's
would be
much more
let down.
about
I want Jamaican weed from Jamaica.
marketing, it's used as a slang and a marketing.
Exactly. It's just
And you
marketing
know what's crazy?
bullshit.
You guys see that Doja post on IG with the email from Copycat Genetics where he basically admitted to just selling hemp seed and marketing package, like,
That wouldn't surprise me, man. That dude's shady as they come.
yeah. So it's like, it's crazy because, again, like Spartan said, a lot of it's just marketing. You know, and the younger guys would go, "Oh, we got that exotic." It's not exotic in any way. It's just some gelato or some cookies cross or
Part of it
whatever.
is also language to avoid getting like caught or in trouble with the law. So like calling something exotic, just calling it like exotic, not saying exotic weed, just being like, oh, I got that exotic. And then that became, I got that Zaza. And then that just became, I got Za. And so you see Za, like how people call pizza Za sometimes. They're calling weed Za or cannabis Za. We called it dank or sticky icky or green or kind bud or herb or whatever for a long time. So like we have all these
Kind.
different terms that we
Yeah.
use, kind. If
Before,
when people had kind bud, I was always happy. That was always a very good time. But man, just kind. You didn't even have to say kind bud, just somebody's got the kind. You knew.
yeah, before I like
Back on the track.
weed, it was either we got fucking weed or we got chronic.
Chronic, I
Chronic.
remember Chronic for sure.
Good weed. It's the good weed, and it was like we didn't. It wasn't. That was it. Now it's different. I'm a little more educated now.
Well, getting back on the educating the people, moving from exotic to something that is more tangible. Candy. Candy. If you think of a breeder and you think of candy, who do you think of and what strains? What are you reaching for? I know there's a few. I mean, I had a little bit of candy out there with the Velvet Punch. That was grape candy, watermelon candy, very sweet esters that tasted literally to me. The reason I knew what the ester was because it tasted so much like grape Smarties that I was like, this tastes like candy. And so Purple Punch, Grape Ape, and all those derivatives, I think are going to have that kind of candy profile. So anybody who's breeding with that stock or related, you're probably going to find some candy in there. Um,
It's interesting that you go there instead of thinking of that as a fruity strain, right? Because it doesn't taste like grapes, the fruit. It tastes like grape
artificial
flavoring.
grape.
Right.
It is literally like Concord grapes. I guess you could have like jellies and jams that have that, but like I'm used to the
Right.
supermarkets have like green grapes or red grapes, but they don't have Concord grapes
And
just for
now
like
they have all
eating.
sorts of other delicious grapes. None of them taste like the artificial grape flavor, right? None of them
They might
taste
taste like
like
cotton candy or some
right,
berry.
exactly. They're breeding them, and grapes are pretty cool fruit for that reason, actually. But I also kind of think the strains that taste like apple taste like a candy version of apple, not like an actual eating an apple version of an apple.
Nine
And
out of
it's
10 times, I agree. I've had like one that was actually like appley apple, but like 9 out of
right, like
10.
eating an apple. But like blueberry, which is one of my favorite fruity strains, it doesn't taste like candy. It's like the fruity side of that. So that's just I hadn't really thought about that until
And
you
like
brought up the grapes.
DJ Short's blueberry is notoriously more like fruit, floral, like actual blueberry forward. Where if you go to the
Right.
Humboldt seed side, he actually has mentioned he thinks of like the reason he called it blueberry muffin is because it was like that muffin mix that had the blueberries already mixed in and that
Oh,
artificial
right, like the
sweetness
dehydrated. Yeah.
is what he was picking up on and breeding for slash selecting. So those are like two different elements of blueberry. And then you've got like the blueberry sativa IBL, which I can't remember who exactly did that. Eagle gave me some seeds from them though. That was some really killer shit. And so there's a lot of people working some really cool blue. There's also Mother of Berries from Maine. Holy shit. I had a cross of that from Kineos Genetics called Berry Lights. That was some berry shit. It tasted like right in the middle, kind of actually. Like you got kind of the natural blueberry, but also a little bit of like the sweetness of a candy blueberry. That was some
Sure.
fire. And it had some pine under it. It was just, I think there was like NL5,
I'll throw
F2.
the cherry strains under there too. Cherry strains are more of a candy experience to me than a fruit experience.
The one
Yeah.
cherry I know the most is kind of candy cherry, but it's like covered in gasoline, which is like the cherry pie. It's just so heavy gas. The cherry is there and you like taste it, but it's very like I think of like the cotton candy or other like sweet artificial cherry flavored stuff that has that rich I think they're not benzene, it's something like that though.
It
Benzaldehyde, I think.
walks a fine line though, a real fine line of tasting like cough syrup,
Yep.
which is not what
Mm.
you want.
I have had some stuff that tastes, I think that's why I don't love the Tropicana stuff. The Tropicana, the more modern, not the Breeder Steve old school Tropicana, which was more like orange juicy, I think. The new Tropicana stuff, which is like purpley and really almost to me cherry grapey and leans into that almost like sweet syrupy, not necessarily like pleasant, almost like medicinal. But sometimes if the effect was there, I would be happier with it, but not my cup of tea. I'm curious, So everybody said their candy. Brandon, have you talked about anybody breeders that you find candy profiles?
I don't like ever grow any candy stuff. The closest thing that I had to candy is the gay laser that I made, which is Sunset Sherbert Rainbow Belts. And then I crossed out to the Starfighter Mac. Um, but yeah, man, I mean, I haven't really like done a lot of like candy type stuff. But when I think about candy, I think about, sure, like probably the two top people that pop into my head are Sherbinsky and Burner.
Yeah, cookies is the backbone of a shit ton of the candy movement, and it's undeniable. And Burner was the one who pushed it. Jigga was like one of the breeders, and there's like a guy, Prince something. But yeah, there's a whole lot of different genetic, a lot of their stuff, just like we talked about earlier. You don't have to be the best breeder because a lot of their shit was just complete herms that turned into happy accidents. And that's why a lot of the cookie genetics herm. And that's why a lot of the gelatos have like 45 different phenos or whatever. They're like, oh, that was like the 45th seed we popped of that giant, 3 ounces of bud we went through that had a bunch of seeds. And number 45 happened to be the fire one. And we're just going to call it the Gary Payton or whatever, the Barry Bonds or whatever, make up some numbers and shit. But
Well, that
ultimately,
company was also lots of marketing. I mean,
oh yeah.
to close down cookies in the town I live in.
They had like a candy rain drop that was clearly, you just did the math on the number of packs they dropped. I think it was like 1,000 of each variety. It was like candy rain and something else, London pound cake. And there was like maybe 500 packs of each or 1,000 packs of each. And like at the price of like 500 or $1,000 a piece, if they had sold out, it was just like a quick million. They just wanted to make $1 million like that. It was like such an obvious cash. And it was like way more. I think it was $1,000 a pack because I was just like, I remember that's like 10x what you pay for a regular pack. And then worst of it all, there's like 13 out of 20 of those seeds in the pack would be like mutant, runt, fucking hermy, terrible
Right.
dog shit genetics. So fuck them for that. And a lot of people got really pissed. I think I've seen like 1 or 2 phenos of either of those strains that turned into anything halfway decent. And like hundreds and hundreds of growers that were just very pissed off. Like, what the fuck? I paid all this for this garbage.
I have a question here. Are we lumping all the cookies and the cakes in with the candy? I mean, are we lumping like Girl Scout cookies and wedding cake in with like, the cherries and the grape ape and stuff like that? I mean,
There are
they
other
seem like different
categories.
categories to me.
The other categories that they listed, and I'm not saying that these are all encompassing, they wrote
Sure.
fruits, gas, earth, candy, exotic, old school. So I think that's definitely not
Okay.
all encompassing
I
enough.
sort of think of them as two different flavor profiles. I got like my baked goods on one hand, and then like my hard candies on the other hand, in terms of like the flavor inspiration for those. But sure, I can
I made a
understand
list
together
one
with limited
time,
categories.
a cannabis specific list, because the Golden Tarp Awards came around and did something like this. It was like 4. They had like gas, earth, fruit, and candy were the 4 categories.
Okay.
So I got all up in my feelings and started writing a list of all the different flavors that should, could, would, and also because like if you put fruit into a category, and I hate lemon, and I'm being judged. I'm a judge, right? And somebody submits a tangy strain that's like a tangerine, but Doc, let's say I'm looking at 2 people right now. So I'll say Doc submits a lemon strain and Spartan submits an orange strain. I love oranges. So Spartan wins because I like oranges. It has nothing to do with how good the lemon strain is. It's my bias. So I was like, why don't we have individual ones? And I had strains for each one: lemon, Jack the Ripper, Vortex, lime, Chernobyl, black lime, orange, Calio, Tangy, Orange Gasm, mango, green crack, mango, mentality, so mango, banana, banana OG, primal F2, pineapple, pineapple upside down cake, Cindy 99, strawberry, strawberry cough, strawberry daiquiri, straw nana, grapefruit, sweet pink, grapefruit, 6 mil, orange gasm can also be grapefruity, papaya, green crack, and papaya, raspberry, raspberry diesel, and raspberry sour D, cherry, cherry pie, cherry gasm, cherry wine, apple, sour apple, apple fritter, grape, grape ape, purple punch, velvet punch, blackberry, blackberry kush, blueberry, DJ short, blueberry muffin, and MOB, mother of berries, peach, crescendo, Afghan peach from Oni, cantaloupe, haze, goji OG, shoreline, passion fruit, pink runts, so mango, and green crack. That's 18 different flavors with like a handful of different cannabis varieties that I was able to just go through
What
off the
was
top
your
of my head.
passion fruit variety, Jack?
Pink Runts was one of them. And So Mango and Green Crack.
There's a cut of Fatso that is such a, I mean, it's such a dead ringer for passion fruit. It's one of my favorite strains, though.
It's funny, I love Fatso, and the one that I had was like just pretty gassy. It wasn't
Okay.
passion fruity, but I love that
Yeah.
you told me because I just wrote it down on my list now. And if I ever come across it, or now I know to look for it, and now I know to
Yeah,
share
look
that.
for the Fatso that's super, I mean,
The
yeah.
pink runts I had, Doc, it was like I had passion fruit like the night before with my wife at a restaurant, and I was like, oh my God, this smells so good. It was like fresh passion fruit, and it was just amazing. And then like maybe less than a week later, maybe a day later, we had this pink runts, and it smelled literally dead ringer exactly for it. So like it must smell just like that fatso, and that's within cannabis. And that's what I love about
Yeah.
cannabis. It's probably an ester. It's probably not even a terpene. We're probably looking for it on
Right.
terpene tests. There's probably some limonene, and there's probably some other cannabis terpenes in there, but it's probably some esters.
Involved. And in the passion fruit itself is probably doing some of the limonene or whatever, you know what I mean, to create its
Literally, yeah.
specific thing. Yeah.
The
So
chemical
both,
tests show that.
right. These are different volatile organic compounds that plants create. Are creating the same ones. That was a wild thing to me. I remember doing like a concentrate um back in like the early teens and just feeling like this is artificial. This isn't real. Like, oh, I mean, what happened here? You put some like, I think it was grape, right? Like you put some grape flavoring in this shit. This isn't, and just that whole realization that we're creating like exactly the same volatile organic compounds, just from different plants.
And like Lang Langs make that same it's called methylanthranilate, which is the artificial grape flavor. And so do
Yeah.
Concord grapes and a variety of other things. Because like when I Googled it, when I finally figured it out, you can buy it by like the jug. People like have concentrated it and sold it in for commercial flavoring for actual candies and stuff like
Right.
that. And I think it's like a bird repellent too or something else. But there's a bunch of different uses for that kind of stuff. And it's cool that it does become organic chemistry at that point, right? Like we're literally cultivating things that can produce certain chemicals, and some of them we find extremely desirable for flavor or aroma or both. And in some cases, those things like terpenes oftentimes have effects tied with them as well. So it's like, oh, I know a lot of like the citrusy high limonene profiles and high pinene profiles tend to give me much more of an uplifting and focused effect, where
Sure.
the more myrcene heavy stuff has a little bit more sedative effects and things like that.
And I think even if it's just through sort of a psychosomatic route, having a flavorful strain that you really enjoy has a psychological effect on the user of it. Just like having a candy bar that you really enjoy or a glass of wine or whatever that you really enjoy. It's that process of really enjoying it that sort of sets you in the right headspace.
Dopamine release, it's just like good
Yeah.
shit, like a good tool, a good meal, a good trip on vacation, a good dog, a good cat. Like any of these things can like really release a lot of happiness for us on top of just like this is my pet that I feed daily and take care of or whatever. Like it
All
takes
right.
care of me in some sense too. It gives back. And
Oh, we're such flavor junkies, just the flavor aspect of that. I mean, people like eat these hyper craveable foods and everything, and they're just like enjoying the flavors. Um, Philip Morris did, or I don't know if it was Philip Morris or RJ or Reynolds described themselves as a flavor company because they're basically selling flavor experiences. Like, and really, it's better to get it from like, dryer vaping your cannabis plant than it is probably from like having another smoothie or something like the yeah, it's a real craving and a real sort of source of satisfaction.
part of the addiction, I think, too, that drives, especially when combined with something like nicotine. Thankfully, in the case of cannabis, I think it's a lot less physically and mentally addictive. But I do know some people that have had their issues, so it's not a perfect
Sure.
thing by any means. But getting back onto the different flavors that they described, after I went on my 18 flavor diatribe and threw off a bunch of strains, we were talking about breeders and where to find it, and then maybe the different strains. We talked about exotic, old school, candy. The next one is Earth. That's the one that I feel like not a lot of people are asking for necessarily, but it's out there. It's in cannabis. I almost feel like sometimes it comes up accidentally if you have a bad dry or cure, but some strains are just particularly earthy. I think Northern Lights 5 actually has kind of a earthier profile. That being said, it's one of the stonier things out there, so it can get away with being a little bit earthy at times. A lot of Afghan stuff in particular, like if you go through like Afghan selection and things like that, you'll find some earthy, leathery kind of profiles and things like that. But those are kind of my first two thoughts that come to mind when I think of earthy.
You think earthy and skunky are kind of on the same spectrum?
That's fair. Yeah, I love skunky. I think that's like its own spectrum that people are just like
It's its own
chasing
thing, so
after,
that's not.
like a unicorn
Yeah.
around the corner from us that we always want but have a hard time finding. I know Brandon's got his skunk cut of, I think, the Blueberry Train Mac F2, I think, something like that. But yeah, there's interestingly some skunk stuff going around. Some people claim to have just ultra like dead roadkill skunk, and then a lot of people like buy it and try it and don't necessarily get that same expression. And that goes to the whole point that we're talking about tonight. Breeding is incredibly unstable. Even if maybe my Velvet Punch expresses velvet and grapey and amazing in my tent here in Southern California, if I send it to somebody in Michigan, it might not necessarily be the exact same. Although that being said, I've sent it to lots of places all around the country and seen lots of people grow it and have lots of really good results. So I'm really still pretty happy with it. But that was all Doja DNA's work for the most part.
We got 5 of them in flower here, and we've got 3, no, 2. 2 of the 5 are already showing purple, and we're like week 3, week 4. Or
That's right about
something
when
like
they
that.
start at the
Yeah.
F3.
So that was cool to see. I'm like, that's pretty early to see some purple. So
That was the thing I saw from F1 to F2 to F3. It was like I was seeing it F1 weeks like 5 and on for all the different stuff. I popped like 15 of them. And then in the F2s, it was a little bit earlier, like 30. And this is just like I sent out 100 different testers to 100 different people, and maybe 75 or 80. I think it was like 80 plus of them got back to me. And I think only one of them didn't have, I just bumped my mic into the laptop here. Sorry if I just made a big bang. But one guy I think figured out they didn't have like molybdenum in their soil at all. They did like a Coots mix and they didn't do any molybdenum supplement. So they're the only one. It was like 88 out of 89 growers had purple Velvet Punch F2s, but like the one guy didn't. But like nothing in his garden ever turned purple for any reason. And then somebody, it was Potent Ponics, the Steve Reisner mentioned that you need molybdenum for cannabis to unleash that kind of genetic potential. There's something that for whatever reason, if it doesn't have a little bit of molybdenum in there, it's not able to switch on that genetic to create anthocyanins. So I think that they've since corrected that. I can't even remember who it necessarily was, but it's interesting when you see such a large percentage of people be able to find purple plants, even in like, really hot HPS summer grows and things like that. That to me just shows that the genetic is distinctly purple, because a lot of stuff I feel like people could coax out a little bit of purple from like cooling it down and things like that. But like week 3, you're seeing purple. That's clearly just in the genetics, and it goes all the way
You
back
can
to.
coax purple out of the leaves of a lot of cannabis plants if you're willing to take a room cold enough. You can't necessarily get the calyxes or the bracts to turn purple. Some strains will do that and some won't, but you can get, and I kind of feel like I could turn almost any plant purple if I got a handle of powerful enough HVAC.
So I would like to say that although there are varieties that are more predisposed to purpling, it's actually a stress response. And I see it often from cation imbalance, too high of light intensity or DLI, or different root zone problems that affect things like mass flow, transpiration dynamics, VPD, too cool of medias. But I have like, it's in my opinion, it's 99% due to some type of stress.
See, I would disagree. If you look at like Gnome Automatics breeding, he has green stuff and he has purple stuff all in the same greenhouse. And he has one that he's been breeding for generation after generation, and they're autoflowers. And everybody I've seen grow them gets purple plants.
About the inflorescence of the plant, but any of the other parts of the
I'm
plant.
talking top to the bottom. These plants are black. I mean, he has one called like the Anvil or something like that, or Damascus. These plants look black like your tent. Like they are so dark purple or dark green or whatever the heck. And consistently in everybody's grow that he sends them to. So like I think genetics play a heavy role, in my opinion, for flowering. In veg, if it's purple stemming or purple leaf, that's, I think I would 100% agree with you that that would be coming down to stress response. But in flower, I
I would
think
say,
it
Jack, I agree with your position, Jack, but there is also stress response purple in flower. Like
100%.
when we make the plants super cold and they turn purple, like that is stress response basically.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, 100%. But I'm saying
yeah.
like in Gnome Automatics case, like you can see these
No,
plants are like beautifully healthy and they're right next to one that's all green with no yellowing at all. And they're like lush and like the turgor pressure on them is like wild. Like his soil is similar to Brandon's. Like he's been building it for a long time and has a great relationship with the understanding of that and the plants. And it's fascinating to see stuff that is genetically purple versus the stuff that comes out of stress. And I would say like
yeah.
even the J1 that's traditionally or Jack Harrer and things like that that are traditionally green, if you put them in a room that swings cold enough, you're going to make them turn purple because of stress.
Yeah.
Or if the cation exchange is off or the root zone is off, like Brandon's saying. I've seen because I'm a cheap home grower and my grow is not always dialed in perfectly, especially before I got one of these little doohickeys that like turns the fan on and off to keep the temp and humidity zones more optimal. My grow is often way too hot, way too humid, way too dry, just like regularly. Like I still haven't commit to buying an air conditioning unit, and I'm thinking this summer might be the summer. But um, without that being said, my grow is far from optimal a lot of the times, and the plants will show it. I'm like, oh, that's not purple because genetics. It's purple in veg because I got there too late and the plant was too dry, you know, or maybe I overwatered when they're in their solo cups because I got a little excited. I just thought maybe it's been enough days. They need more water, but like, no, sometimes they can go a really long time without needing it. And so I still flub that occasionally. So no, I think nobody's perfect. And as much as we can, we just try and learn from those mistakes and get better and make them happen less and less often. And try and dial in why and when things do go wrong. Like when we are getting those stressed out purples, did the room get too hot? Did it get too cold? Why did that happen? Was our air conditioning not up to it? Do we not even have an air conditioning unit? You know, could our exhaust fan have done more work or something like that? So there's lots of ways to prevent it. And in Brandon's case, I think like keeping things dialed in the nutrition side, the soil, or even in hydroponic environment, like you can see it a lot faster. I know Spartan's gone back to DWC, and I bet you could get purple plants really fast in DWC if you threw the EC way off or threw the pH way off, just made something available or unavailable and made the plants stress in a way that you could start getting purpling in the stems, leaves, etc. So cannabis is a fascinating plant. There's so many unique little situations, but I want to stick to the last couple thoughts. Unless no, we didn't all go around on earthy. I think Doc mentioned one. I mentioned some. Spartan, do you have any thoughts for earthy breeders or earthy strains?
Earthy is kind of a lot like the last one, the sugary or whatever, the sweet ones. With me, it's nothing I hunt. That's not something I hunt, so I can't really give a recommendation because if I find something like that, it's gone in different direction.
You don't
So
like the earthy?
no, that's not something that I like, you know. I liked a lot of the fruits and a lot of the gas and lately we've been going down the whole GMO kind of rabbit hole. So a lot of the funk, I guess you could say, mixed into savory kind of stuff. Um, I just got a hold of the Ohio cut of Death Star, so that's going to be gassy, hopefully. Yeah, we're really just kind of focusing on other things. Earthy is not one that we've really
My Death Star is a little skunky, gassy and skunky.
sweet. That's even better. Yeah, this one, I don't know. I've got one in the ground outside. I got one, which has been pretty hot, so you can't really get much smell off of it. And then I got one inside, and I got one at the Trichome Forge. So we'll get three versions.
It's funny, I just looked back when I went on my whole diatribe about my 18 flavors. That wasn't just 18 cannabis flavors. That was 18 all in the one section of fruity. And I'm sure you
Right.
guys all realize that, but it's just like that just shows how much diversity there is within this plant. Like 18 within one of those four categories. We could go through the gassy and then you can some stuff is more like I don't know, there's like chemical gas versus like gasoline versus like diesel or kerosene and like
Kerosene,
the
yeah.
like methane leak, like the stuff, whatever they do to put in like methane that has a smell, because I think methane is a scent-free one.
Yeah.
Yeah, natural gas,
Or like
the
sulfur.
Natural gas.
that marking compound.
It's funny
Okay.
because there's like a notorious scene in Friends where Ross is like trying to hit on some, I think it's like a pizza girl or something. He's like, "Hey, you know that smell and gas?" And she's like, "Yeah." She's like, "They put that there." And she's like,
Yeah.
"Okay." And so like that was like his pickup line to her, but it was just like so awkward. He's like trying to hit on her at the door as she's delivering the pizza. And it's just one of those things that I'll never forget. But there when the San Diego, not that there's just one, but one of the crews in San Diego that ran cat piss claimed that their cat piss had a little bit of that methane leak smell because their grow actually got reported because people thought there was a gas leak. That was the
Uh,
volatile that was being smelled through the garage and stuff before they had good
uh,
enough air filtration and things like that. And they ended up cutting it because it lost the cat piss smell that people desired, I guess. That's another profile that I'm like, not necessarily sure that I want to jump on the cat piss
yeah,
bandwagon or
urine.
on
I stay away from the urine profile pretty
vomit is
much.
another one and feces. Those are
Yeah,
also scatols
bodily
and cannabis.
fluids. Yeah, I'm out. Um, I don't. I'm not. I'm so surprised to hear Spartan didn't like the earthy though. I kind of think earthy is a desire, like it musty, as long as it's not like you're talking about Jack from being poorly cured. Um, but like is actually a profile of it. I think those are pretty cool strains.
I'm with you. Like
I'm not saying that it's all bad. I'll smoke
Yeah.
just about anything, but I won't usually reach for that if I got something else next to it that, smells like lemons or some limes or
So if one smells like dirt and the other one smells like lemons, you're gonna go for the lemons?
yeah, that'll be me. I'll be going for that lemons.
Okay. Yeah, your own. We want a nice petrichor. The smell of like rain, fresh rain. I would like that. That would be like
I do
a
like
perfect,
that.
like earthy variety of a smell. That kind of like, yeah.
that is a unique smell. Like I don't know if cannabis has that in it. Maybe it does, but that is a beautiful smell. I like that smell. Like on a walk the morning after, or like it might be drizzling, and like as you're walking, you smell it sort of releasing
Yeah.
into the air, and you're
Yeah.
like, wow, it's just
Yeah.
pleasant. I don't know.
It's invigorating. Yeah. We got to get the breeders working on that. Give me the petrichor strain.
I will say I've had some funny ones like bacon. I had a bacon terp on one of my Platinum Yeti F3s. Ended up going away. It didn't stay through the cure, but I know people that have had like Spartan grown. I think you had a headlights that was like Salisbury steak
Oh
phenotype or
yeah.
something.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody was saying Salisbury steak. I kind of also smelled like a beef jerky. I've kind of smelled like that before
I've
too.
heard meatloaf and stuff too, and other people have described like meaty, different meat varieties of strains, which that's a surprising one to me. But since I have experienced it firsthand, I was so convinced that it was maybe I'd eaten bacon that day or something that was like on my hands from like eating the actual real bacon that I like went and washed my hands, washed my beard, and then I went back into the grow room and it smelled like bacon still. And I was like, what the fuck? Like I was smelled right up on that plant. It was just one specific pheno. Like I had two of them and one of them smelled more like that. And the other one had weirdly enough like a buttery cookie smell to it, like an actual like butteriness. Like it smelled like I use butter to cook with, so I know the fucking smell of butter, and it smelled like
Mm-hmm.
butter, but almost like mixed into like a dough. Like when you're baking, it gets that kind of it has a uncooked baking scent. But yeah, there's just so many weird little profiles in cannabis that are possible. And
I've definitely
earthy
smelled bread, like bready smells. That one's a weird one.
sourdough or like yeasty,
Yeah,
hopefully
yeah.
not a bad way.
Yeah, hopefully.
But yeah, there's so we covered Earth. Gas is one I know the guy I would go to is Doja DNA if he's still putting seeds out of there. He's a pretty small scale breeder, but like his whole thing was in the OG Kush era, he wanted to breed seeds that had fuel because people were selling the OG Kush for like $10,000 a cut or something crazy. And like he's like a cheap home grower, just like vegan dude who loves doing his own thing out in nature. And so he bred a bunch of he got like a cut that was maybe related to an OG and like the local fuel and just made it available from seed because he would grow one big crop every year outdoor in his greenhouse. And each season he would do like a cross with like one male to his females that he had. And then he'd grow those out in the successive season. And he ended up with one called Del Norte Fuel. And he used that to breed gas into a lot of his stuff. And I've loved it. That's where like the Velvet Punch came from. That's where Jack's Spike Punch. It was actually just called Spike Punch, but he wrote Jack's on it. So I thought it was called Jack's Spike Punch, not realizing he was like writing like in the collection of the 5 groups of seeds he sent to me. He's like, these are for Jack. So this is Jack's spiked punch and then Velvet Punch, blah blah blah, Solar Fuel, etc. He had Solar Fuel is the Del Norte or Del Norte Fuel cross to. It looks like Norte, but it's just Nort, I guess. I'm
It's Norte, Jack. It's just that we can't pronounce Spanish words very well.
okay. Well, somebody locally told me it was Nort. I don't know.
That's what they say up there. I mean, I lived up right near Del Norte County. It's one of the silliest mispronunciations of a Spanish word, though, that we do in
Because I
California.
know
We've
it was
got a
Norte
lot.
from Spanish speaking because I speak some Spanish and like
Uh-huh.
I've seen Norte used elsewhere. So like I got
That's
that.
just the bastardization of an English attempt to read a Spanish place name. So
Right, 100%. And it's like when people say like La Jolla instead of La Jolla or something like that.
right.
But in this
Right.
case,
Well,
they
we
actually
usually
accepted
get
it.
that one right. So it's hit or miss in California. You get about half of the Spanish names correct, and the other half are like real, like Alhambra, which just makes every Spanish speaker like laugh out loud that that's what we're saying. So
That one is funny. And I'm from Ohio where there's a lot of native names that people really have a hard time with. Like they had like the Cleveland Browns players trying to read like names like Ashtabula and Geauga and Cuyahoga. And when they saw them written out, they're like, just trying to sound it out and it's not necessarily English phonetics. So
right.
there's some really funny mispronunciations that come about from stuff like this. And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It's fun. I think evolution of language and culture. I'm actually thankful, for how things ultimately, nothing's perfect, but where we are as a society generally, I think we've gotten more peaceful and better on moving forward. So not always perfect, obviously, even currently is an example, but getting off that and back onto the gas. So I mentioned Doja DNA. Um, like Josh DOG, if you just want like classic OG Kush, he's still around. He still has the Kush from like 1997, which was also a Hermie mistake, not from like a mega breeder doing like inline breeding projects. He just had a strain called Emerald Triangle and another one, Hindu Kush, and those two hermed, and that made the OG Kush. And I believe it also made another really good one called Triangle Kush. And the TK and OG are like sister plants from the same uh, herm incident. So not necessarily always intentional breeding, but that was brought from Florida, um, from Josh D. But Matt Berger was part of that crew and all that. So there's a lot of history and interesting stuff behind that. But that's a good fuel side of things from like a baseline OG Kush. I think a lot of people still like OG. It's around and not necessarily too hard to find, but also not like the most popular thing on the block. So I'm curious. Uh, Brandon, do you like gas at all? I think I know you're more like fruity, uplifting kind of stuff. Do you go for anything fuel side? And if not, do you have any breeders in mind that are more gassy or fuel heavy?
Yeah, I do a bunch of work with like uh Chem D, for instance. Um and the lime stuff is very fuely as well. So I mean I feel like all the stuff I have is pretty gassy.
I think
It's
it's
very
sort of the underlying note of a lot of modern genetics, if I'm being honest. Like how I talked about the candies earlier and like the cookies and some of those profiles, like a lot of modern stuff with punch, whether it's ChemDog related or OG Kush related, it comes
yeah.
from either one of those camps. And then it's like bred into a cookie or bred into a haze or bred into a strawberry cough or something. And then they like kind of just somebody called it like kissing cousins or kissing sisters and a lot of that kind of genetics that are like closely related and they just kind of bounce off each other as they go along the way. So, um, Spartan, do you have any thoughts on the whole gassy breeder situation? Do you have any favorite gassy strains or breeders that have bred something that has like a fuel or gasoline or kerosene kind of aroma?
If I was looking for like sour diesely stuff, probably I would be looking over there in New York at
Karma?
Top Dog. Top Dog
Oh
Seeds.
yeah, that's
I'd look at those guys. Otherwise, if you're looking for gas, man, it seems like everybody's got a gas.
not
And
too hard to find.
yeah, and this is a hard question for me because I just go on my fucking seed vault. I know I got something gassy in there, you know.
What would that be? What would that be and who would it be from? In
I'd
your actual
probably
seed vault?
go. I think I got one or two from the OG Ocean Grown crew, and so I think I have one or two of those strains. I can't think of what they are off the top of my
Like
head.
Vader Fuel and stuff,
Maybe
or
Beard
what?
on Fire is one of
Vader
them.
OG, Beard on Fire.
But yeah, I know that's a Medgrower one, and I don't
Yeah,
think so. That's what his is. But I
they
don't
were
know.
like a crew that kind of ended up branching off into a bunch of independents. So
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I don't know, man. I would just go through my vault and just go through that. I think even there, I might have some subcool stuff that's gassy. Now that I think about
he did
it.
work with some later, especially.
Yeah. So, but so yeah, I wouldn't really even probably look for another breeder. I would just look in the seed vault.
That's always fun to hunt through there and see what you want to pop next.
Yeah, between
Doc,
me and Baked, we would have something.
I'm sure you would. Even some of the stuff that I was mentioning earlier, like the Donnie burgers and stuff, I had some phenos that leaned towards that Larry OG, even though it was like double crossed into the GMO, they leaned towards that Larry OG. And it was basically just like a Larry pheno, it's just like, holy shit, this is like a Larry OG Kush, because there's like a Larry OG F8 or F9 parent in there. And even when they back cross the GMO a couple times, when you pop an 11 pack or six of the 11, and you get two, three, four phenos, a couple of them might express like one of the grandparents or something like that. Do you have any thoughts on the gas kind of strains, Doc? Any cuts or any seeds that you would think of when it comes to that kind of stuff?
I got some red diesel seeds. I'm not sure who bred them, but I really enjoyed them. It's one of my sort of the ones I'd like to get back. So um I like a good gassy strain. I think that there is, I agree, Jack, sort of a undercurrent of a lot of the gassy terpenes or whatever in a lot of the different popular strains. Um, but yeah, that was just the plant that kind of made me remember that red diesel. I really liked it, and I had it in a little baggie. And I'm terrible with this. I should be better. Although I get seeds from lots of different places, that the breeder doesn't always seem like the most important part of it. Um, but it just a little baggie that said red diesel. I think I probably picked it up at one of Jordan Rivers like seed exchange things or something like that, and it was really good. So
If you're that person, reach out to Doc and let him know if
yeah,
the red
right,
diesel is still exists, still around. I'm sure if I do some Googling, I could figure out between like the seven different breeders who have a red diesel who might have been the one,
right.
or it might even be like just a home breeder, home grower, or something like that, which often is the case that they make some really killer shit. I was so flip-flopped on this. I thought for so long it had to be like a commercial brand with like a logo and on a seed bank. And I was like, oh man, they're like they can be at this high level. And then like
Right.
the Instagram breeder is just like this little guy schlepping seeds and like maybe he's
Right.
passionate and likes it, whatever. Once I started growing the little passionate side home grower stuff and like seeing how good their shit was, I was like, oh man, I totally overlooked the communities way too. Like this was just my first couple years when I was getting onto the Instagram because I thought
Right.
like anybody can make a fucking Instagram, right? Like so anybody can put seeds out there. But
I
it
think
turns
that
out
the bell curve is bigger on the Instagram breeder side, right? Or the sort of the community breeder side. So there's much more variability in the quality. Lows can be terrible, but also there's some things out on that other tail that are just like better than anything you'd ever pick up from a bigger breeder. So it works out on both sides. It's a little bit more like gambling, but there absolutely is, and probably some of the absolute best out there are those, right? But they're like
I think so.
you're also going to run into a bunch of shit.
For sure. And sometimes it's worth the risk, I think. And it's fun. It's such a journey, even if you just do like a random pheno here
Yeah.
and there of different stuff. It can be a lot of fun. So we covered gas and then fruits is the last one. And I'll pass it to Brandon because he's a little bit of a fruit connoisseur, I would say, at this point, with all the different fruity crosses and stuff that you've made personally. And as much as you are the artist and back crossing into a lot of your own work a lot of the time, maybe you can give us some of the places that you sourced some of the materials to make that happen. I think you already mentioned earlier, like Mean Gene. And yeah, I'm just curious. I think you said
One
your
is
your blueberry didn't come from Humboldt Seed Company for the blueberry train mac, right? That came from somewhere else.
no, so Blueberry Train Mac is uh the F5 Blueberry from DJ Short, a male crossed into Trainwreck. And then that was later in 2003 crossed to MK Ultra Male. And then I did all the selection work off of that. and then cross it into a Mac V2 male to make it prettier.
Okay, so yeah, that's where it's coming from DJ side. Then I guess like going back to the whole lineage thing, although it was
Yeah.
partially his work, you hunted through and found something that you liked and kept working with it. So that's a lot of the fun of going through this stuff. And I think that's a good place to start with the fruits. What about some of the other fruits? I think the lime came from Mean Gene. Do you have any other kind of fruit breeders out there that you would suggest or have had good experiences with?
And when we're talking about lime, it's like you can get some of the like trop candy type flavors, but oftentimes it's more like it's citrus, but not orange, it's not lemon, and it has more of that earthy type of tone to it. With my limerilla, oftentimes you'll get like a soapy perfume lime and kind of like gas or like muskiness or whatever. But it's like not just a single profile. It's like when we talk about lime, it's like, oh, you're not gonna find just limes. Like the limerilla is different than that. It's more nuanced and complex. And so like the Black Lime Reserve, I've done tons and tons of work with. I have one that I call Trop Lime. I also have Black D, Chemdog Black Lime Reserve. The that number 16 of Black D is like a trop lime, but it also has garlic in it. So it's like a combination of all of those. It's very musky. And then the trop lime is a high divorce rate, which is wedding cake mac crossed into limerilla. And that is like more of the like it's like methylantranolate lime. It's got that like trop cherries, but no cherries. Instead, it's lime. It's pretty awesome.
Sounds good. I like it almost reminds me of Sonic, like a limeade or something like that. They have like a grape limeade slush or something like that. It's not the healthiest thing in the world, obviously,
What I'm
but
currently smoking on is the F3 Blueberry Haze, which is it's a like a fruity berry forward with the Cali Haze back in that like turns blue late in flowering. It gets like the darker coloration and kind of the pinks and the veins, and then it kind of like silver and blue streaking throughout. It's really nice. That's what I've been smoking on.
good stuff, man. I love nice fruity variety. I know Spartan does as well. Spartan, what are some of the breeders you think of when it comes to fruity stuff and maybe some of the strains that you've liked?
Well, it's gonna be the same answer. It's gonna be, Sub Cool with my that Vortex that has lemons. It's gonna be Brandon Rust. His lime, his a lot of his lime. I grew that the limelight from him, and I like that one quite a bit. And I think I have one of his limarillas as well, but I don't have it growing currently. I have the seeds though. Um, but Subco really had a knack of picking those terpy strains, and he had a lot of different of the fruits. He covered a lot of them. I grew the what was the blueberry cross he did with it? I can't remember. It
Blueberry
was
Butcher?
no, it was with it was DJ Short's blueberry to Cal Cushman's. Oh, it was Blue Cough. That's what it's called. It was Blue Cough, and that one was pretty fucking cool. Um, I'm just trying to think of the ones I've grown back in the day that are specifically fruits. But yeah, it was mostly Subcool that had like the fruity stuff for me. Currently, maybe I would reach out to maybe Bloomco. But there's kind of a more sweeter kind of candy-like fruit, but or Tiki definitely would probably have something as well.
He has like a fruit punch one. It's called Bullpup. It tastes literally like Hawaiian, like the red Hawaiian fruit punch. It is
Nice.
just like literally like a dead ringer for a flavor. Like, oh my gosh, man, that stuff is fire.
My grower one had a pheno of his I forget what his first strain that he released was. What the fuck that was. I forget what it was
Primal
now.
Punch.
Primal Punch. And that, yeah, and the F1s had, there's a pheno that was straight, exactly what you're saying. Dead ringer, like you're drinking Hawaiian Punch, man. Love that shit. That was good.
It's always cool when you can get something that's a dead ringer on a flavor. Going back just a second, you mentioned diesels, and Karma is another one. Karma Genetics, I think he's in the UK. He's done a lot of like back crosses and like headband and sour diesel work, and a lot of people really respect and appreciate his stuff. I've smoked some of it and been really impressed by it. So I'm not one on the diesel is dead front. I think sour diesel's out there. I know people in Northern California, the same group I got that bullpup from was growing sour diesel, and it's the real sour diesel from one out like the 2000s that brought me back like a fucking time machine and was so nice. NorCal grew some and still does grow some of the best sour diesel in the whole world, and I'll stand by that. New York also grows fucking amazing sour diesel. So like it's not just the pith. They appreciate some of those more uh can be more uplifting strains and things like that. But getting back on the fruits, sub you mentioned Chernobyl, he had lime. And the Chernobyl like lime Slurpee, I had a really limey pheno, and it was like true lime, but almost like a margarita mixed in there, like had like a lime Slurpee kind of effect to it too, depending on when you picked it. But it was good shit. But Doc, I'm curious, where do you come down on the fruit front? Do you have any favorite fruit strains? When I went to your place when we smoked, I think you might have
Yeah.
made us pizza. This is a while back,
Yeah.
but you had some really bomb shit that you grew that was really fruity. It was also kind of on that like fruit punchy side. Maybe I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was good.
Can't remember what is the other. Yeah, I mean, sure. I always grow good buds, Jack. What do you, of course.
I'm not doubting. I'm not
I
doubting.
really
I just
like the
like to
limes.
confirm for the people that if they're ever haters, like, oh, it can only be organic if it's good. I'm like, no, Doc grows in cocoa and it's fucking super fire. So don't hate. It can be done.
I definitely like the fruits are probably my favorite category of strains. Everything from like that fatso I'm talking about. That's sort of my fascination these days. That's got the super passion fruit terps or esters or whatever is making it taste like that. Brandon brought up earlier the tangerine, I think, or the grapefruit rather. Grapefruits are great. The standard, what the sativa strain grapefruit, um, doesn't usually do it a lot for me. Who does Toronja? Um, that's been kicking around. I got a cut of Toronja in San Diego, Jack. I don't remember who the breeder was, but that's a
What was
grapefruit. I
the
mean,
name?
Toronja is just grapefruit in Spanish. Uh,
Oh, okay.
Toronja,
It's like
Toronja
naranja or something. It's
or
orange or something.
Toronja, they would say, yeah. Those are cool strains. I've heard I've always been like lemon. I grew this cut called Dr. Lemon that I got as a freebie that was so potent on the lemon terps on limonene that you just put like a little nug, and I was using it to like add flavor to other strains that I had grown that were like whatever when I'd roll joints, and I'd put mostly something else. I'd put a little, like one little nug of the Dr. Lemon in there. The whole joint would just be like pure lemon. So I like sort of strains like that. Um,
It's funny, they can like stain a bong. I've had like strains like that like the limonene, like you'll smoke one bowl of it and then I'll try and change it out for something else. Like my wife does not like those really uplifting, like
yeah.
typically heavy limonene strains. She kind of gets like the heart palpitation. This is not her favorite kind of high. So one time I didn't clean the bong after smoking some of that stuff, and you could tell like, she's like, "Oh my God, I could still taste it. Like we need to clean like the whole bong, like the bowl, everything, because it
Yeah, I think
just
it
gets in there."
it has a strong, I mean, and it can get really concentrated. I don't know sort of how that's measured or how that is, but it definitely seems like it gets more concentrated than others. I think the other one that I'm missing, and this certainly isn't a fruit. I don't know if this belongs back in the earthy category, but where are we putting pine in
Earthy,
the
I would say that I wouldn't necessarily fall perfectly into it, but I would say that's in the earthy realm because it's like
that's in
a
the earthy
tree,
realm?
earth, the plants that are like non super floral and like I don't know. It's more natural. It's not. And there's within pine, there's like what 13 or 30 different fucking types of pine. Like there's so many different pines. Like that's
Well,
like a
when
blue
you think,
spruce smells a lot different than a different pine.
Right,
got
but the cannabis strains that really bring out the alpha pinene in particular are just some of my favorites. Like in
So
addition to the
good.
fruits, I would go to the pine strains.
That's
the
another good one we didn't touch on. Go ahead, Brandon.
I've got these, the herbal cut of the blueberry train mac, and what I smell, because I think what most people would like if they just smelt it once and they're like, oh, that smells like pine, but it's got a lot of like rosemary and sage and thyme notes in it.
Yeah.
A lot of these like all like different types of like herbs that are really aromatic, and it's almost like a combination of all those, and it's just so pungent. It's like when you
This is
open up.
something you're working on?
So this is a mother out of those hundreds of cuts. One of those
Okay.
outliers that was in the F2 population. I found one that
Yeah.
was really skunky, and then I found this one that was I call it the herbal cut. And
Nice.
and that's what, and the thing is, at the time I was I had the actual flower, and I'm growing thyme, and I'm growing sage, and I'm growing rosemary, and I'm growing basil, and I'm going back and forth to the different plants, and I'm like, yeah, dude, you can really smell like the different types of herbs,
Right.
and like, and so it's sometimes people might just, oh, it smells like pine, and they're associating it to a plant, but they're not actually identifying like the exact profile of what it is, whether it's like rosemary or whether it's thyme, because those two things are similar, but they're completely different.
I love rosemary, but I hate sage. And so like I would like the rosemary element. I like the alpha pinene and stuff. And it's
Yeah.
I don't know, rosemary to me smells a lot like the good cannabis pine. And sage just smells a little duller. But maybe I'm just not growing good enough or getting exposed to good enough sage. And oftentimes it's being burnt and smudged to, get, I don't know, bad
Right.
omens
I
out.
think it's associated with something else, like the smudge stick smell. You're not thinking about cannabis.
Yeah, not positive. Like JTR is a positive association with lemon. It can be like lemons or like the more often I found it's been like lemon head candy, where it's just like the exactly like a lemon head candy
I
and
love sage.
extremely potent.
I'm just gonna go on the record and say sage, I'm okay with you. I like the smell of sage.
Yeah.
Reminds me of Thanksgiving stuffing.
Good, Spartan. Yeah, you didn't want Sage's feelings to get hurt, did you?
That's right, man. Come on. Sage
He's
is
standing 10 toes down for Sage and all the Sage fans out there, and I respect it. So I don't turn off that side of the audience because even though we're an hour and a half plus into the show, he
Kept the pro Sage side of the audience, Jack. Yeah, don't worry.
he keeps him listening. It's
Yeah.
not
yeah.
just the beard. It's not just the beard.
I also am a big fan of adding aromatic plants like that into my grow. Like I just thanks to Red and Becca gifted us a Tulsi basil or holy basil. And oh my God, if you haven't grown a holy basil or Tulsi basil, I literally will go in there every time I water and just brush my hands through it to smell my hands because it's such a good smell. And if it starts to try to flower on me, I just trim it off and then make a tea out of that. Oh, get you guys a Tulsi basil.
Is it similar to like basil, or is it like a
That's way
different?
better. It's just fucking it's a whole nother level, man.
But is it just like a good cut of basil
Yes,
or
yes.
okay.
And there's two types of Tulsi basil. I think there's
Is this the Italian basil?
no, it's I think Indian,
Okay.
Okay.
I believe.
Because there's some Italian basil around here that smells so fucking good. It's like cannabis levels of good. I smell it from like 15 feet away and I'm like, oh my goodness, that smells amazing.
Because
They take
your
like a
old
little
Yeah.
leaf of it, clap it in their hands or split it, throw it on your salad, and it makes the whole salad taste way better. It's like
yeah, I'll just take a
unbelievable.
leaf of it or whatever just to just eat it here and there too. And it's just that flavor burst in your mouth too. Same thing. And Tulsi's super healthy for you. Yeah, there's a big rabbit hole. Just put in some Tulsi basil on YouTube and you'll see some cool videos.
I'll have to check it out. I'm a basil fan. That's what I tell people at the post office when I'm sending out the open source Genetics Alliance package that I'm sending out rare Italian basil. So
Oh, I
please
love it.
handle it with care. And I have
There
like
you
this
go.
side up. The one guy is like super cool at the one spot that I try to go to the most often. That he's really good with it. But after him, you never know what the fuck happens. One of the people
Yeah,
who worked at the places said that after a certain point, it goes through like machines and it gets like dropped through stuff. So I just
yeah.
package it as durably as possible and try and make it work. But that's on break for the summertime. And yeah, I think one of the things I also wanted to get back to was as much as I love talking about basil because basil does smell amazing. There's a farm here called Jacob's Farm that grows particularly good basil. Cannabis is also an amazing aromatic plant that we all love. And AK Bean Brains is one of the breeders on my list. He's actually the top because I think the Instagram has it listed alphabetically. I said Humboldt Seed Company earlier. AK Bean Brains has a lot of really cool blueberry crosses. He's an Alaska breeder who does a lot of old school stuff like NL5s and blueberry stuff. Um, the next one is the Cali Connection. My favorite one from them is their Deadhead OG. Just like cherry pie, I had insomnia for a long time. Came across this one particular batch of Deadhead OG that could put me down in like less than half an hour and reliably for like a long time. So I just bought all of it that they had at the dispensary at the time. This back in like the Prop 215 era, but great stuff. And they actually followed me back when I mentioned them in 50 Strains of Green, as opposed to some other people that I mentioned that tried to like sue me over using them in the book. So shout out to the Cali Connection because I think they've been around for a long time and breeding some really cool stuff. They've got some like Tahoe OG and some other cool stuff too. Lemon Hope Hoko Genetics has their own cool little Discord community. I've got some of their seeds in my seed vault as well, and they've just got a lot of really cool stuff. This one, I don't think they actually sell stuff anymore, Spire Ridge Farms, but I had a connection with them back when I was working for a delivery service, and they had a lot of really great strains, like Alien and like space related stuff. Green Bodie, who has done some work with Brandon right here on the panel. And I've been a fan of Green Bodie since working at that same delivery service because we had a lot of their stuff like Sour Best Shit Ever, SBSE or something like that, and some of their pineapple stuff. And man, they had a lot of really cool stuff. Hazy Kush was another good one I liked from them. And I think Brandon, what did you do with Green Bodie? What was the work that you guys did together?
We did the Afghani Bull Rider crop line. So we did a Afghani Bull Rider NL 89 Northern Lights, and then we did a feminized Afghani Bull Rider onto like a Fem Hazy Kush. I supplied the Afghani Bull Rider. John did the
Hazy Kush. That shit is fire, man. I grew, smoked, and sold a lot of Hazy Kush for a long time, and people loved it. So in a pretty difficult market in northern San
Yeah.
Diego.
There are people growing it in the Discord on my Discord. Like we have a section for all the different genetics, and there's people growing all kinds of stuff.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I've like literally before I knew that you worked with them, I was a fan from a distance. It was like when I Subcool was another one. I had Jack the Ripper at that same delivery service before I ever knew who Subcool was, and like found him on YouTube and Instagram and realized he was doing like live streams talking about the stuff and like growing it and showing it. So RIP to him as always, and a big fan of his stuff. Green Bodie is where I picked up. Subcool Sig is the next one who incidentally was on the list. The American one, I shouted him out earlier, Amy Aces and many others. Stayfly Farms, who's also called Original Dankster, which is convenient because they're back to back on that list. Um, the one I grew from them was called 3 Point Stance, and I had another one that was like a strawberry cross, straw nana cross or something. But the 3 Point Stance was like a GMO crossed to something else, and it tasted like sour Skittles, and it was just fantastic. It yielded well. It looked amazing. Great color, tons and tons of resin. Grew really healthy and fast, and I mean, not a lot more you could ask for. Real Crockett, 420. I should click onto their page. I think it's Tangy that they're notorious for, if I remember correctly. Creator of Tangy, Strawberry Banana, Clementine, Banana Split. Okay, all those that I just listed, I'm a fan of. Strawberry Banana is super potent, good hash yielder. Clementine tastes good. Banana Split is one I have mentioned in the past. It got me so high that I'm like disoriented. It's like the one thing I will not smoke if I have anything to do, because if I smoke Banana Split, it doesn't make me sleep. It just makes me fucking like incapable of doing things. But sometimes it's fun to just like zone the fuck out and like maybe watch a funny movie or something. But like that's about all I'll be able to accomplish when I smoke Banana Split. Tangy is good, and Strawberry Banana is one that I mentioned earlier. Tastes good, yields good in hash. Just fantastic stuff in general. So shout out to Crockett for that. And I've been diatribing for a while. I'm curious, any breeders pop into your mind throughout the show? Because Doc, you mentioned at the very top that you couldn't think of one necessarily because so many are not necessarily doing repeatable work to the level that we would want that standard to be eventually. But
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess my thought about this is breeders are going to have some luck. They're going to do some different things. Some of them are going to do it more rigorously than others. I think there's definitely some people that are working with better lines than others. Um, I don't think I've kept track of that enough in order to sort of, I mean, that's just not my area of expertise in the cannabis industry. Um, I appreciate the efforts, and I think that some of the people, I mean, I want to grow like Limarilla from Brandon on the panel. Like I don't have, I look at how things grow, how they perform, how they test out, and how they smoke and taste and everything. And I'll remember that kind of information or look for that kind of information. But as long as the breeding technique is largely just, crossing and selecting, then it's more about finding the individual. I mean, at least in a commercial repeatable sense, it's about finding the specific cut performs well for what you're looking for to fill that sort of niche.
I guess
As
we
a
should have
home
mentioned that at the
grower,
top, right? That's the whole point right now. We pheno hunt, we find a cut, and then we try to run that over and over and over, like GG4 or
yep,
Death Star or these things that we've
yep.
held for decades in some cases.
Yeah, exactly. So you find a cut. Oftentimes with a commercial client, I'll get them 6, 10 different cuts of a similar strain. They'll do their own, or different strains. They'll figure out what there's going to grow well, send it off for testing, see if it's going to hit the sort of the numbers that they're looking for in that market. As a home grower, I wanted much more diversity than that. So I very rarely bought the same strain twice. And in thinking about stockpiling seeds before sort of being able to eventually end, I don't know. I like the suggestions that you guys are all throwing around here. So no, I'm sort of taking my own notes.
All good. I have a few more that I wanted to list off. I just wanted to
Yeah,
not
go for it,
just keep
Jackie.
on
This is
reading
straight
the
up your
list.
alley. And you know that, like I've brought you in on projects. I'm like, yeah, Jack's the strain guy. He's gonna know all the different sort of what the cuts are gonna be. So yeah.
We have worked together in the past, and I do appreciate you for bringing me in on those circumstances. And I'm glad to be able to offer my services when necessary. And I do have a deep passion for this, and for a long time. I mean, I've written one book. I'm working on my second. I finished it. I just need to do the formatting of the photos and stuff. I'm so embarrassed that I haven't actually published that one yet. But a lot
Yeah,
going
I
on in
really
life.
think that you actually have a depth of knowledge here that's unusual, even amongst other sort of aficionados in this space. So, I mean, it's cool that you're doing books. I think that the knowledge of all sort of the different breeding and background and strains and the parents and all of that is cool. And yeah, I hope that you find a great way to monetize it because it's a cool and unique kind of set of knowledge that I absolutely think you're the expert there.
It's come beneficial in so many different circumstances at so many different levels. It's been I'm doing it just because it's my passion, but it certainly has paid off in certain circumstances, including getting to work with you, which is awesome that we actually got to do a little bit of a project together. And I just, yeah, I love it, and I think I'm gonna continue to follow it as it goes because new people do pop up, and we get new breeders that are doing new and different stuff. There's people
Yeah.
doing like more tissue culture, and that allows there to be more stable keeping of genetics for longer times without necessarily as much resources dedicated or as much space and things like that. So when people get into that level, you can start to see breeders really locking stuff down and doing selfing and feminized breeding and things like that can really isolate things a little bit quicker in certain directions. So the opportunities are really unlimited, but I'm going mainly on just from like the ground floor approach of like the stuff that I've smoked and grown myself and know my buddies that grow the stuff and I get to have access to smoking it and seeing what stood out to me throughout the test of time. And one of the things I wanted to mention is there was another guy out there who wrote a 50 strains book. Like it's 50 strains that laid the history of cannabis. And somebody sent it to
Yeah.
me thinking like, oh, I bet this is going to piss him off. I bet you he's not going to like that. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. I'm like happy to see this. Like another guy doing a 50 strains book doesn't bother me at all. There was people before me writing Canna Bibles. Subcool was doing the, big book. And so like Ed Rosenthal, so many others have done cannabis books. I think that the more people, the merrier. There's so much room under the sun. Like I'm not worried about somebody else doing a 50 strain cannabis book. There's going to be more after him as well. So I'm actually happy to see it because they have a different perspective. They're coming from a different angle than I am. We all have our own unique perspective. And so the 50 strains that they think are the most important is depending on their age and where they lived and what they got exposed to, just like mine is exactly the under those same circumstances. And it's just a sort of touch point in time. and I think it's fun for the people that are passionate enough to share it. I keep clicking back over to the Instagram, and then whenever I do, the following list goes down. I have to scroll back to my point. But here we go. I'm gonna pick up Ludlow Seeds is also the American one. If you ever see that account, shout out to him. But Mr. Soul _ C99. That's
yeah, that's a good one.
Rick Campanella. Probably mispronouncing that. But he is the guy who's behind Brothers Grimm Seeds, which is right underneath it conveniently, just like the Stay Fly and original gangster earlier. Relentless Genetics, they've got some really cool stuff that's like really purple and pink. Blanking on the strains right now. Okay. Creator of Bougie Bitch, Trop Cherry, Rose, Cherry Cookies, and many more. The Rose is the one that I'm thinking of. And yeah, they've got some really, it's unfortunate because like these pages used to have such nice pictures of these buds, but then their accounts get deleted, and then these people just put up a basic page with like links to where they can be found on seed banks and things like that. And then we don't necessarily get to see the cannabis history, and that goes back to the whole part of the purpose of writing the books is so these photos and things, the cannabis history doesn't get deleted and erased. But picking back up from Relentless Genetics, I've just got a couple more here. Mamiko Seeds, I mentioned them earlier. They're the one who created the GMO, the garlic cookies. It was a cross of Girl Scout cookies to something else. I can't remember off the top of my head right now. I've been drinking maybe too many of these American Weed Company THCV beverages, which give me a nice little uplift, but maybe not the perfect focus, or maybe my memory is just not great. But okay, Mr. Nice Seed Bank, I mentioned them earlier. That's Shanti Baba. Symbiotic Genetics, they've got some really good stuff. Canorado Grow is another one. Humboldt CSI, Karma Genetics. I mentioned them when I was talking about diesels earlier. Sin City Seeds. Oh, they've got some really cool stuff. Smiley from Michigan actually has some really nice phenos from Sin City, and man, they have some killer stuff. JBC Seed Bank is on this list, but they're not a breeder. They're a seed bank. If you are looking for seeds in the US, I think that they're still doing their thing. It looks like their account is still active, and I'd have to check the website. I'm going to be buying seeds again here soon at some point, I think, just to restock and refresh a little bit. But I still have a bunch in my vault that I'm growing. Exotic Genetics, Mike from Exotic Genetics, he put out a bunch of killer shit for a long time. DNA Genetics, they have some kind of old school classics as well. Mean Gene from Mendocino, Brandon mentioned them earlier. And then Skunk Master Flex, that is the guy who did the Donnie Burger, Han Solo Burger, and a lot of different burger work. He found the GMO pheno. And then the last one I have on this list is Old World Genetics, which is DJ Short. And
Two more from chat as well. Irie Genetics, Roster Jeff, you know, our buddy Roster Jeff out there.
that's a great one too.
And Soulfire Genetics. We've grown a couple of them as well, and I've seen a lot of other people grow them to great result.
I grew a couple of Soulfire cuts recently, a couple of Soulfire strains that a user had sent in. They were both good.
And I'll just touch back to Tiki Madman. He's got good cuts and good seeds. I know a lot of when I first started listening to like Michigan Bros Grow Show, that's a show that I miss, but they used to talk a lot about tiki cuts, and I would be like, who's tiki? What are tiki cuts? And then they're like, oh, this breeder is using tiki's cut of blah 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 strain to make this new strain. And then I heard, sure enough, another person, oh, they used tiki's cut of that. I'm like, who is this tiki guy, and how is he finding all these fucking cuts that are so killer that everybody wants them? And is not only do they want them, they're breeding with them. And so shout out to Tiki Madman, because everything I've tried out of his camp has been fucking fire, man. Like, there's some people. Michigan is bringing the heat hard. I've seen some breeders like Third Coast Genetics is another one. Clearwater Genetics is another one.
ABC Company.
AB Seed Company is another one. There's a
Yeah.
lot of really good breeders in Michigan. I think the Oreos came out of Michigan.
Yeah, Pure Michigan.
Super Boof, I think, or Super Boof.
Yeah, that was selected by Mobile J.
I think Fatso is also from Michigan, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong about that one. Who made the Fatso? I need to look into that.
I'm not sure about that
Fact check me live. And yeah, I love Fatso. It's such a good smoke.
It really is.
This is just Google, but
The
oh,
cut that
Canorado.
I'm working with grows crazy too. It's one of the biggest yielders. They reduce the number of plants they're putting on tables because it's just it grows crazy.
It's because it has GMO cookies in it. It's GMO crossed to Legend OG from Canorado Genetics, according to the Googles. But
Okay.
Canorado Genetics is another one. They've got some killer shit.
Yeah, Colorado's got some good ones.
Yeah. If you get a chance to grow that, I grow out the Fatso. It's a cool strain.
It's funny because there's so many different like phenos. Like you were describing one that was like passion fruit, and then like this it says like sharp diesel, spicy herbs, savory, lingering finish. But this is just fucking AI from Google or whatever. And then if you go to like Alba, they have a different description, and if you go to Leafly, they have a different description. Uh, but yeah, GMO cookies, the Legend OG is the consensus that I'm seeing across the different things. But Fatso, that's one that I smoked kind of like Donnie Burger that I was like, oh man, that stands out. One, it's got a good strain, like strain name. Fatso is just fun to say. It's like it sounds
Sure.
good. It looks good on this thing. A Fatso, it's like I don't know. Unless you unfortunately like got called that or something, and you have a bad memories or something of it.
Right. If you were taught it as a child.
Like if that was
Yeah.
the bullied nickname, if people called you Fatso as a kid because you were a little overweight, and that definitely happens. I'm not trying to belittle those people, but like I could see that, being a turn off in that regard. But I think of it as like the plant is a Fatso. It's a big giant yielder. It's a fucking massive, like Doc was just describing. Like in commercial settings, it's one
Huge
that you have to
plant.
scale back because it grows so big and yields so much that you don't need
Yeah.
a million plants. So how does it finish time wise? I imagine it has to finish fast enough, right? Because it's being run
Yeah, it
commercially.
does really well in an 8 week tight window, but hit with a lot of light during those 8 weeks.
And dialed
So it's
in.
different. I really do think that for home growers that are working with probably 50% less light, or at least 30, it's going to be 9 weeks. I think that that's a big sort of distinction between how much light you're able to deliver to the plant. But it does really well in a commercial setting. Really well. I mean, we veg for 2 weeks and the plants are like 6 feet tall.
That's
Like,
the ideal. Like you barely have to
yeah,
veg at all, and then you have massive monsters that are just
yeah,
great yielding.
yeah.
I think that's
And great
part of the
smoke.
OG. And
It tests in the 28s usually for THC. I tested just about 3% terpenes, and just is really consistent and incredible.
the most
So
mids fatso I saw was like 26%, and it was still fucking fire. Like maybe 2% terps or something. But
yeah,
it just wasn't grown as well as like a facility that Doc helped dial in. And so when you do dial it into that level that it can achieve what it's capable of or close, it's a fantastic one. And I think that there's a reason several of us have come to appreciate it. And I think that whenever that happens, it's generally a good, uh,
yeah.
we
Another straight GMO. I mean, they're doing it at the same place they're doing the GMO. That's great. I prefer the Fatso, but like these strains are popular for a reason. Um, yeah,
yeah, it's just fun. I
and
think
growing them well helps a lot.
that is one of the things that I think is a consistent competitive advantage of a grow is if they can source down genetics that are actually good and then grow them well. Some people think that they're growing something and it's a relabeled or they bought it from a European seed bank or something and then they pop seeds and they're like, I'm growing GG4. And it's like, no,
Right.
you're growing maybe self GG4 or a back cross GG4 or something else that might be good, it might not be, but it also might not be what people are looking for. And so it's interesting to figure out where these things do come from. And some people, I think, do end up hitting a little bit more consistent. You'll see a lot of these names showing up. Like Subcool showed up a bunch. A few of these different names come up over and over. And even though he's gone, his stuff will be in Rasta Jeff. He also did like a seed increase where he did a Jack the Ripper F2. Jack the Ripper I mentioned in the lemon section earlier. It's also one of the most potent strains I've ever smoked. It gave me like the heart thumping palpitations for the first time I smoked it. I was like, just calm down. It's just weed, man. You're fine. That and Cindy 99 are like two of the only strains that I've ever done that and some hazes, but super good shit. And I don't know. Yeah, I lost my train of thought there. I'm nice and stoned over here. This THCV bevies and good weed are doing the job. But fucking yeah, I was essentially just saying a lot of the same names come up. And Rasta Jeff is another name that I heard a lot. He actually does the Grow From Your Heart podcast. So I started watching the show and I really do enjoy his shows. He's entertaining, he's knowledgeable, he's got a ton of experience commercially and in the home grow, and he helps out home growers at the same kind of level that we do, like a 1-to-1 scale where he's answering questions and doing all that stuff. So shout out to him and shout out to all the breeders. Even if you're a home breeder and people knock you for being a little tent grow, if you're a giant commercial breeder and you think, whatever scale you're at, I'm happy that people are doing it because we do need those companies to some extent in Europe or wherever they are, white labeling seeds and making tons of cannabis seeds so people can have that funnel be as wide as possible so they can go on some website and buy some seeds 24 hours a day and have them shipped to their door and start growing. And then they'll learn, oh, wait, there's some cooler breeders and different genetics out there that I can look into. And I don't have to just get things from this one spot or whatever. And everybody starts somewhere and we all find the breeders or breeder that we prefer. And sometimes it ends up being you. You might love, your own shit the most. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. I think who can breed better for your own head than yourself, right? If you select over and over and over your favorite stuff. There's a powerful reason behind maybe increasing plant counts and things for people so that we can home breed, have the largest number of plants possible for people with medical issues so that they can find the best things that work for them and they can do big crosses and have a lot of fun and not have to worry about, the government kicking their door down or something like that. But with that said, there's only about 4 minutes left and there's 4 of us. And not that we have to be done and right at 6 o'clock because there's not another show. RIP Michigan Bros Grow Show. It was good times back then, but I'm going to pass it first to Dr. MJ Coco for final thoughts and shout outs before we close it down tonight.
Yeah, as always, I enjoy the being on here. I'm sorry to everybody. I was gone the last couple of weeks. I should be able to stay around for a while, and I'll do a better job of letting you know when I'm going out of town like that. Um, August is a little bit weird for me. I'll be back in California at the end of the month, which is nice, but I'll be looking forward to being on the show consistently for the next few weeks at least. I went on and did an episode of Growcast. I taped it with Jordan this past week. I think it's going to drop if it hasn't already. I need to check. It's probably dropping tomorrow. So if you guys are interested, that's a extended take on under canopy lighting and talking through sort of the experiment I'm setting up with my client in Mississippi they've just installed the lights. I'm going to go down there probably end of next week and do some things with training and start filming that. So I'm thinking about putting together some content on this big under canopy light trial. Look forward to that.
What lights did you get? Did,
We went with Faven.
nice.
The
Those guys are
canopy light.
awesome. Oh, yep, those guys.
Yeah, and basically it came down to they had done the most sort of research specifically on under canopy lighting. So
They
I
were
had
the first ones in the
conversation.
game with it. They were the first. They brought it to
And
their.
it's all they do. They don't
That's all
do
they did.
overhead
Yep.
lighting. They're just in the under canopy game, and they
Yep.
have their own R&D lab. And I'm
Their own
probably going
grow.
to work with them on. I am working with them, but on sort of publishing the stuff that we're doing. So it's fun. They're great guys out there, and I'm
Funny guy.
excited to get this
Funny as
thing
hell.
rolling. So check me out, drmjcoco.com for commercial clients or any kind of work like that. Cocoforcannabis.com, my YouTube channel, and I do the Ask Dr. Coco show every week through my Patreon. So you can look me up on Patreon, also Dr. MJ Coco. And thank you, Jack, Spartan, Brandon. It's good to see you, buddy.
Great having you back, Doc, as always. And next up, I will pass it to Spartan Grow.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, panel. Of course, I love hanging out with you guys, talking grow. This was a cool show. I felt underprepared, honestly, because like I said in the show, I'm not really looking to a breeder to I've got my friends out there, or I've got such a backup of seeds that I want to grow that I just got for everywhere I look. I've got, I don't even put them all away yet. I've got so many seeds. So seeds is not something I go out to buy, but I know I'm in a special situation and I'm blessed. So I don't know, man. I gave my best answers, but they're probably old information. I don't know how helpful they're going to be. But much love, everybody. Just keep growing. That's what's important.
Absolutely. I think between my list, if they can't find somebody, then they can reach back out. But I think that and all the answers that you gave, there are still some people. I mean, technically, right? TGA is still being operated by Will and Vicky, and so some amount of those seeds are being made and sold, and I don't know what
Well,
level.
specifically, it's Subcool Seeds now, but yeah, that's their company.
Oh yeah, sorry. After the Jill. I'm so old school, and then I'm
Yeah.
still thinking TGA. We were calling it TGA earlier, but the dank,
That's what
the
that those
dank.
when those seeds came out, those strains I was telling you about, that was TGA era. That was before all that, for sure.
No, I know. I remember the whole. I saw it all. I witnessed it all. I feel a little old saying that, but it's crazy to think. Even like Josie, we're the only people who ever interviewed him ever, like on a public podcast. I've looked around. You can't find another interview of Josie Wales talking about GG4. He came on here. Thanks, Brandon, for making that happen. But that was awesome. And last and certainly not least of our panelists this evening is Brandon Rust.
Yep. Yeah, so the only really cool thing that we're working on is we've partnered up with this company out here in Oklahoma, and we're going to be building the first. Well, we have a business proposal with a company next week to build the first industrial closed loop energy, hydrogen fuels, aviation fuels, ammonium, and humate fertilizer, all from in a closed loop system, because it's really cool. Our byproduct from the extraction of humic and fulvic acid is human, and that is put through their plasma, microwave plasma technology to convert it into all these other like fuels, hydrogen and ammonia, which then that ammonia goes back into the fertilizer formulation to create carbon chelated, like stable fertilizer. And it's all closed loop. There's no byproduct. So we're working on that. Super stoked. It's like $100 million raise, venture capital raise. All right, so it's not a venture capital. It's a LOI, LOI, not a LOI, a PLO from the Department of Energy. So follow along. We'll be working on that pretty consistently over on my page. And then other than that, check out Full Crop Sciences.
Great to have you as always. And I'm at Jack Greenstock. Y'all know where to find me. This will be posted on all the podcast platforms either Monday or Tuesday, whenever I can get to it as soon as possible. And I'll post it on X as well, formerly known as Twitter. So peace out, y'all. This was a fun one. I always like talking about cannabis genetics. I know it was a little bit, I didn't prepare anybody. I was like, oh, I should message them and say, put a list of your favorite breeders together. But I just, I'm terrible at organization. I'm sorry, y'all. I just sometimes on the fly is we're building the plane as we're flying it, so to speak, at moments with the show. And my computer almost like crapped out on me. I had to like reset it twice before I started the show. So I'm just happy that I actually got here on time and the show went down as smoothly as it did today. So thank you all for being here, both the people on the live audience and everybody who listens afterwards. Peace and love, y'all. Keep growing and catch you next time. Cheers.
Grower love, everyone.